Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sim Racers World TV and welcome to another round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. We're here for the second round of the season from the wonderful Home of British Motorsport, Silverstone, and this is the Meridian Audio Silverstone LMP2 Classic. And what an evening of racing we are going to have. Chaz Draycott here in the commentary box and on the broadcasting duties, and alongside me once again, I'm delighted to say, is Ed May. Ed, we had an absolute treat of a first round at Daytona, and the conditions were one of the talking points there. What do you reckon we're going to see today?
Oh yes, thank you very much, Chaz. Thank you, everyone. Good to be here and good to be here at Silverstone. As you mentioned, the conditions are going to be a lot trickier, I think, compared to Daytona. You've got so many corners that will really test the drivers to the limit and also run through the tyres. We saw last time out at Daytona, of course, no tyre changes whatsoever. I don't think we'll be seeing that this time around. I reckon we'll be seeing at least one change to the tyres around about at the hour mark in this race.
We will indeed, I reckon. You're absolutely onto something there. The drivers are just at the moment out in their individual qualifying sessions, so everybody has their own mini session essentially. Maxime Brient, who won the first round of the season, is currently the man at the top of the times, nearly over a quarter of a second clear from everybody else. Top of the AM category at the moment is Justin Young in the number 42 Bull Out racing machine, and he has brought the ball out, although Mauro Prado for Banzu RX Flow goes to the top of the times. Now in that class as well, it was Pablo Prado that won at Daytona. He leads the championship in the AMs from 36 points ahead of Justin Young, so he's going to be sick of the Prados beating him in that category there. Of course, Maxime Brient, who we mentioned there just a moment ago, leads the championship in the Pro category, just ahead of this man, Ramez Azam. And it was a really well-contained race from Ramez at Daytona, wasn't it, Ed? He really played the strategy to full effect.
Yeah, he definitely did. He was quite consistent and quite clever to get his car in the best position to get ahead of Peter Zuber, who came home in third position in that race. And, well, he's just ahead of Peter Zuber this time out. The margins, though, very close indeed at the top of the Pro category. The top three all separated by 0.3 of a second. Then Peter Zuber is quite close with that Ibola Lawal in the Scuderia Gunas car. But this is Ramez Azam. We're going to see if he can improve his starting order, get up a couple more places, get himself onto pole position, just coming through Clump Corner now onto the Hamilton Straight. Where will this see Ramez Azam shaping up? Oof. Oh, he does improve, but not enough to get pole position from Maxime Brient. So close margins, though, less than 0.1 of a second separating pole from second place.
Brilliant stuff. 64 thousandths of a second is all it takes in around a lap that is 1 minute and 45 seconds, similar to GT3 times around Daytona. That is some serious good stuff. Now, we've got all the pros ahead of all the AMs at the minute by the look of it, except for Christopher Stahl, who is in 28th overall, 21st in class. Justin Young, who's just disappeared, has gone top of the... Never mind, James Ibram, the exothermic racing car, one of my favourite liveries on iRacing at the minute. The exothermic driver. As you can see on the left-hand side there, we are showing the class positions on the left. So the blue squares, as you can see at the top of your screen as well, are the amateur drivers, and the orange ones are the pro drivers. But that exothermic racing machine looking quick round here at the minute, Ed, and it's going to be intriguing to see how he gets on with those pro drivers around him throughout the race as well.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to be conscious of the fact that he doesn't really gain any points from finishing ahead of pro drivers. The only positions he needs to worry about are, of course, the AMs behind him. So he can maybe take it a little bit more cautious into the first little bit of the race, can afford to lose a few positions if he has to, because it doesn't matter about the overall. All it counts for is the all-important class position. Speaking of class position, look at this. Mark Winters, he's so close to getting up in front of Tim Allman and Michael Floyce. I don't know.
I think Flush, maybe.
Flush. Maybe. Is Mark Winters going to improve is the big question. Yes, he does. Gets himself into the top 10, just ahead of Michael Fluge. And into 10th in class. This is, though, Daniel Andres. Where is he? He's not set a valid lap time yet. The 3K iRating driver from Spain. Going up now into Stowe. Really has to send the car in, keeps it nice and tight onto the throttle as early as he can. Has to do an opposite lock moment to collect the rear of the car, keep himself from spinning out hard onto the brakes into the Vale chicane, avoiding the sausage curbs on the left and on the right, and then powers down full throttle from now on into Club Corner and down the Hamilton Straight. Where will Daniel Andres' first flying lap time set him? Up into 23rd in class, 34th overall. So not an amazingly quick lap time from Daniel Andres, but I'm sure that was just a banker. This is going to be his flying coming up very soon.
Oh, Andy Spice has had a bit of a moment there just through the first couple of corners, and I think that's him done with. Yeah, he's going to stop that. We'll go back on board with Daniel Andres. I hope you like the graphics at the bottom of the screen as well, everybody. It was Cine Nomini that has been doing all the graphics work for this series and has done the side profiles of the cars that have managed to sort on the overlay. They were a little bit too small previously, but done some work this afternoon in sorting all the colours and things out. EJ Fulner as well has been fantastic to work with on making sure that the series gets what it wants and we give everybody a very, very comprehensive broadcast. And it certainly does bring to life what you're looking at as well when you can see the car on track, and it attributes to the one that is on the overlay. You know, you get the driver's number, you get, of course, the livery as well. It's just the main visual factors of what you're looking at. You've got to love it. Obviously, as you see, not everybody has them, but we need to at least have a placeholder in there for that. And that's just work in progress. People will be sending them in as the season continues. Hans Blankart, 6th at the moment for Stage 1 racing. And again, another lovely looking car. But these things are just so exciting to ride on board with, aren't they, Ed? There's just so much noise and so little space in the cabin of this LMP2 car.
Exactly. It's one of the most emotive cars I think I've seen on any sim racing game. It's just how you can feel so immersed in the car, all the sounds, all the little entrance. You can even like hear the wind whizzing by as you're hurtling down into corners at say 300 kilometers an hour, and the little shakes, the little tiny twitches you can feel through the wheel. iRacing have done such a good job, as we're seeing Hans Blankart now coming on into the pits and not going full throttle through the final section that we were hoping to see, but we've still got a few drivers out on track. Ryan Massett is one of them in the CCTS esports car, currently 9th in class, 007 on trying to have a license to go quick, but not quite getting it. Oh, that was a bit of a stretch there, Chaz. I'm sorry. But you can see he's really trying to send it on into the corners, but taking a little bit too much speed. It's a little bit of setup work that can be done here and there. You need to try and think, do you want to go quick through the tight twisty bits, or do you use sort of long flat out sections like through Woodcote, down the Hamilton Straight, down the Hanger Straight, coming out of Copse as well, or down the Wellington Straight, and then sacrifice a bit of time through the corners? It's an interesting question. I want to see what you think you would be doing around here, Chaz.
I think it's all, I mean, you mentioned before about the tyres. It's just all about making sure you get a good exit off a lot of these corners. So you want to take maybe a later bit of a turn in rather than attacking the apex from the get-go, especially down here as well at the end of the straight, all the way down to Stowe. You've got to turn in very late to get a slingshot off this corner. But the thing is, the curb is actually quite early on the right-hand side. So it's very easy to get drawn in by that and attack it as much as you can. We're back to Daniel Andres in the number 55 Meridian Motorsports machine. Hard onto the brakes. Chucks it in one way. And this is the thing, in the slower corners, this car, with its pretty long wheelbase, can't rely on all of the fancy aerodynamics it has. So it goes a bit slower still, 23rd in class, but moves up to 26th overall. So an improvement there from the Spaniard Daniel Andres, but not enough to get him right up there in the field. Peter Zuber is, well, trust me, he's there. Sat in the pit lane at the moment, but Maxime Brienne and Ramez Azam, the top two from the first race of the season. And once again, this international grid proving its real prowess here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that you mentioned, the international nature of this championship. The top 7 all, I believe, actually, no, the top 10 have, I don't know how many, but several different nationalities. We've got a Frenchman, of course, on pole position, Maxime Brienne, and then Ramez Azam, the Canadian, in second. Alexander Walton, the German driver, ranking up the podium places. Then we've got the Australian, Bart Hoston. I dread to think what time it'd be for him. Maybe it's getting into the small hours of the morning there for Bart Hoston there. Burkhard Maring, though, The second German on the grid in 5th position. Peter Zuber, the Hungarian driver, is going to be trying to get himself a good start from 6th place. And then Merjam Aliu and Luca Fioravanti, 2 Italians, 7th and 8th.
Yeah, indeed. And then you've got Ajibola Lawal in 9th and Timothy Hayden, another German, in the top 10. We've got a Romanian driver as well, Roberto Edward, further down. Ivo Lobscher. We've got 3 Brazilian drivers for Fuel Tech Esports team all together near the bottom of the pro category, actually. 14th, 15th and 17th. And then you've got...
all teammates as well.
Yeah. And then we've got the 3 Iridium Motorsports, well, 4 of them in a row, actually. 3 Spaniards. And then, of course, the Colombian driver, or I believe Venezuelan driver, Juancho Oval, as the
I think it's Colombian, I think.
I was going to say, I know that the Colombian and Venezuelan flags are very similar, so I'm going to try and find out by looking through the... It is Colombia, you're right. I know.
I think Venezuela has like stars on it or something.
Yeah, I've had it confused before with Louis Correa, who races in the Sunday Drivers MX-5s. Here is your grid, though. Maxime Brient and Ramez Azam make up the front row ahead of Alexander Walton and Bart Horston. Then you have Burkhard Maring, Peter Zuber, Merjim Aliu and Luca Fioravanti. Ajibola Lawal in 9th ahead of Timothy Hayden and Molnar Peter, with Roberto Edward in 12th place. Then we have Ivo Lobscher and Rodrigo Lizowski ahead of Arthur Figueredo and Drew Lloyd. Then it's Fernando Teixeira and James Ibram leading your AM class. Then it's Jose Buizan and Eloy Caballero in 20th. Alvaro Melendez ahead of Jancho Oval. Justin Young is 23rd ahead of Christopher Stahl in 24th. Let's hope he doesn't stall off the start. Pablo Prado is 25th ahead of Daniel Andres, who we saw there. His brother Mauro Prado just behind in 27th, with Jacob Money in 28th. Then it's Hans Blankart alongside Stephen Hatter, Kamal Hashimi and Roy Massey. Then it's Mark Winters alongside Michael Flus and Tim Allman and Lee Tucker on the 18th row of the grid. Just behind them we have Kevin Abe, Luke Schneider, Stephen Orell, Andy Spicer, EJ Fjellner and Robert van den Heuvel. We will sort your name out one day, Robert, we promise you. But as you can see there, a massive field of cars, and a very, very good looking one indeed, or at least we could do for a moment. There you go. Very neatly stacked together as well. It looks like Windows has had some sort of issue, doesn't it really, Ed? But it's certainly going to be an interesting race here. Very different conditions to what we had in the first round of the championship. What do you reckon to this one? Who do you have your eyes on for a win?
Well, Maxime Brent, of course, is the driver to watch out for. Of course, after getting the race victory at Daytona, he did 2 better than him and his teammates did at the Daytona 24 and won, of course, the first round of this Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. But we're going to be getting started very soon. Ramez Azam was only a 10th off of Maxime Brient's pole time, so you keep an eye out for him. He's going to be trying to send it around the outside, potentially through Abbey, depending on how good of a start he can get. We're seeing the cars now make their way through Club Corner. And look, already Maxime Brient has gone. He's led the field coming out of the final corner onto the Hamilton straight, and they go single file, 2 by 2, further behind. The top 3 all keeping it as they were. In fact, actually, Alexander Walton has dropped a position too, but Holston further up. This is Eloy Caballero going through Alvaro Menendez now. And further back, this is the fight for 10th position. Kamal Hashimi is going to look down to the inside of Abbey. Oh, he makes it stick and then gets a clean run through farm. The driver's not wanting to do too many risky maneuvers, keeping it clear of contact for now. As I say that, though, Rodrigo Lizowski is off at the loop. So what on earth has happened there? The Fuel Tech Esports car, it was doing so well up the order and has plummeted down, losing 14 positions since the start of this race. Here's a replay, actually. Thank you very much, Chaz. We're going to say, oh, he just gets a little bit of a nudge of... Who was that? Was that the 99 car of Ivo Lauscher, maybe?
I think it might have been, yeah. He certainly moved over a little bit to try and defend, and then unfortunately, a little bit of contact as it all checked up. But Maxime Brient, like you say, fantastic start. Really making the getaway that he needed. Ramez Azam still trying to chase him down for SimCity Esports. But Holston's under pressure from Alexander Walton, though. This is not a fight that will disappear, especially now as we're going to go down the back straight. The hanger straight as it's known. Alexander Walton really closing in. He's over to the right hand side. That was Schumacher and Hakkinen-esque that at Spa down the Kemmel Straight in 2000. Great stuff. Still, he's allowed to move over. Oh, that was close to contact between the two of them there. Now, the number 9, Peter Zuber down the inside. And the Impulse racing machine, that was definitely an impulse manoeuvre. But he's in a bit of a Simsa sandwich at the moment with his teammate Timothy Hayden just behind. That's Luca Fioravanti as well in the DRS Wave Italy machine. In the AM category, James Ibram still leading the way. James Ibram, again, we'll sort out pronunciations. Behind him, there's actually quite a battle in a lot of these pro drivers. You know, he's got Eloy Caballero, Christopher Stahl, Jancho Oval, Fernando Teixeira, Jose Buizan and Alvaro Melendez in there. Justin Young actually putting him under pressure there. Stephen Orell has had an issue though, Ed. If I find him. Hang on. He's still moving down the order. There's been a bit of a shunt actually. We're going to go back to live pictures here because Pablo Prado is dropping down. Oh, there's something has gone on there. Oh wow, okay, there you go. Kevin Aby was involved in all of that. Yeah. Jancho Oval had gone off. Oh, there's a bit of a touch. Oh, and he gets collected by one of his teammates and everybody piling in. He needs to just stay where he is. But yeah, Stephen Orell, I think, was one of the first ones to have the issue. This was while that was going on. Oh, there he is, scary, especially when it spins around like that. But, oh, lively stuff. But this is what we love about this championship. We got to see this at Daytona. There is always something going on, especially in the opening laps.
Oh yeah, definitely. You would think that with the tail race they might take it a little bit careful, but no, they love to put on a show for us, don't they? And they're certainly doing all that and more, though. This is Eloy Caballero in the number 138 car, currently 16th in class. Under pressure, though, from Christopher Stahl, the bull out racing. He's going to have to pull out all of the stops to try and get ahead, because you can see that Christopher Stahl from previous memory, or Eloy Caballero, sorry, from previous memory, is quite a quick driver, isn't he? And he doesn't like to just lie down and let you walk all over him. In fact, look at that. He pulls out a massive gap coming through the Vale chicane. Meanwhile, though, still side-by-side action. That was Daniel Andres trying to get past Mauro Prado there. That is, of course, the pro driver trying to get ahead of the AMs. So it doesn't really... See, Andres is not going to gain anything from passing the AMs, but he does need to get ahead if he wants to have a chance of getting more positions later in the race. So it's all about not immediately winning out, to then put yourself in a better spot come the end of the race, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. You need to just think about track position all of the time here. You need to be very careful about who you're battling against, how much time you're losing, and especially with the pit stops that we're going to see, because these things do run out of fuel after, well, at Daytona it was about 40 minutes, wasn't it? 40 to 45 minutes. So here they are going to have to do a number of pit stops again, but you just need to be very careful about who you're around and whether the fuel saving is worth the time you're losing with the cars in front. Maggots and Beckett's such an iconic section of circuit. Lovely shot of all these Delaras flying through there. There is your AM class leader at the moment. He's got a couple of positions over Justin Young, who is there. Oh, we've got Kamal Hashimi just having a bit of a fight as well. He's got Alvaro Melendez ahead of him. Mark Winters for Team Winters Racing just behind him. He is one of the drivers that does have the graphics. You cannot miss that bright green and black machine. It looks brilliant. But now he's going to get a front row seat actually here for Kamal Hashimi, who's surely going to get a run on Alvaro Melendez just ahead. And look at that, even he's trying to tuck in the slipstream as well. It's very strong in these cars because of how much of a hole they punch in the air. And they really do rely on that aero, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. We've already noticed it a few times in this place at the high-speed corners, like going through cops, that you do lose a substantial amount of downforce there. Alvaro Melendez staying ahead as we see a bit of two wide moments further back. Kamil Hashimi ahead of Mark Winters. Meanwhile, further up the order, this is the battle for 5th position. Peter Zuber, the number 9 car, under pressure for a moment there from Draycott Maring in the Simsa Esports car. And well, Peter Zuber is the filling of a Simsa Esports sandwich. He's got Alexander Walton just ahead of him. Draycott Maring just behind. Do you reckon, Chaz, that maybe the two Simsa drivers could work together perhaps and try and get themselves higher up the order?
It depends on whether Alexander Walton just ahead of us here, who is there, is game to back off or not, because he wants to go after Bart Horston for a podium position, I think. So this now is, we're obviously on board with Zuber, but I think Burkhard Maring's going to have to fend for himself in terms of this battle that we've got going on. It's all him and him only at the moment, because he's got Luca Fioravanti behind him in the wonderful looking DRS Wave Italy car. Absolutely love the look of that machine. We do have some fantastic battles going on though further down. Rodrigo Lizowski is on the back of your second placed AM driver, Justin Young. So this is one of those moments, isn't it, where they're in separate championships. So Justin needs to think now, do I just let this guy go? Because he's also got Jacob Money right behind him. So whether he relinquishes that position or not, he's got to consider, will a battle slow him down? Will letting him pass slow him down enough for Jacob Money to take advantage of that, as Maxime Brient does the fastest lap of the race and Drew Lloyd is in the pits?
Maybe Drew Lloyd. This is the thing though, so I've had this happen to me once before, is forgetting to change my fuel from qualifying into the race. So that could be something that has happened to Drew Lloyd. I can't see anything on my event viewer that show him needing to come into the pits other than a miscalculation or not changing the fuel come the start of the race. So we're going back to this little fight we were watching earlier on, Chaz, and I don't know, if I was Justin Young, I'd be really trying to weigh up my options there. I'd be thinking, right, if I can stay in front, that works for me because I've got a car between myself and then third place in class. That would help me stay in second place. But by letting the car in front, if he is quicker, you could maybe try and use the slipstream a little bit to drag yourself high up the order, and also potentially save a bit of fuel and make your pit stops that little longer so you have a less splash and dash at the end, or could maybe even negate a pit stop entirely. Well, we've already seen what he's thinking. He's let him through without too much trouble going into Brooklyn. So now it comes the matter of, is he going to be caught up by Jacob Money right behind him in third place?
Yeah, this could become quite the chase here for these podium positions. Not too far back in this class as well. Hans Blankart is right on the back of Stephen Hatter, the number 768 Gallo Manco machine. They're right together at this moment in time. Oh, but there you go. There's the dirty air, and of course the hindrance that you have of chasing these cars closely. You don't always get to see exactly where you need to go on the apex. Now, here comes the attack from Jacob Money. He's trying to cash in on this position, you could say. Round the outside at Stowe, that's brave stuff. Brient does another fastest lap of the race. Beautiful move by Jacob Money, and in all fairness, you know, Justin Young, he gave him the room. That was nice, fair racing from him. But that was positively a wonderful manoeuvre there by Jacob Money. Great stuff.
Yeah, the 042 getting ahead of the 42 car. So I have a few things in common. Also, it's not confusing whatsoever, but they're certainly also very quick over the top of this AM fight. But, well, the class leader in AM's James Ibram is kind of trying to check himself out and book himself into a nice, comfy spot on the podium in first position. He's going to see if he can do it. But meanwhile, this battle for the podium in the pro category and overall is really starting to hold up Bart Holston after getting a good start, getting ahead of Alexander Walton going across the line. Alexander Walton's going to be trying to get that position right back within his grasp. Simsa Esports car against the Iridium car up in front. Oh, nice orange machine on that we're on board with now. He's really sending it through Cops, and now the dirty air is really going to come into effect. They're through Maggots into Beckett, and then coming out of Chapel. You see all the time the car just doesn't want to turn, and Alexander Walton really slows down as a result. Is he under pressure though from Peter Zuber? Potentially, but I don't think there's going to be a move sent into Stowe, and that just shows really the effect, just illustrated to perfection, is how strong the effect of dirty air is on these LMP2 cars.
Especially through a section like Maggots and Beckett's as well. You can lose so much when you're chasing the car in front, and that was a definite example of it there. Now a little bit further down we have Tim Allman in Big Red F. He's hoping that today's race isn't going to be a Big Red F for him. He's chasing down Kevin Aby, who of course was involved in that little incident earlier on. So Aby has managed to find his way through all of the trouble and sits at the moment 13th in class, 34th overall. We need to look a bit further ahead of this though, because Alvaro Melendez is under pressure from Mark Winters. There's the green machine. But like you said though, Ed, they really need to manage their gap to the car in front at the right moments, because if you're right behind coming into Maggots and Beckett's, you're just going to lose so much time. And through here as well, you know, into the first new part of the GP loop. I'll say new, it's been around for a while now, but you know what I mean. it just completely hinders any run that you'll have out of said section, doesn't it? And then, in all honesty, there's no point trying to get slipstream because it just goes away.
Yeah, you really need to get in the sort of, as you mentioned, the perfect spot between the two places. So this is Justin Young. Oh, he has a lockup and he loses several positions there after getting passed by Eli Caballero. He loses out to Pablo Prado as well. He's going to try and get back up the order, but Justin Young is seemingly starting to have a bit of a struggle now. He was fighting with Jacob Money there up in second position in class, and all of a sudden he started to fall away, lose a little bit of pace, which is unfortunate. It's just been getting caught out. Wrong place, wrong time, it seems, and now he's going to try and get himself back up into the podium places, but it is a tall order, especially in a nice tight championship fight. But look at this, the number 3 car from front, Pablo Prado, gets a little bit slowed, but then so does the number 7 car. He looks left, he looks right, he looks left again, gets it pulled off, but he's going to get closed off going into Stowe. No, he doesn't. He's going to get his chance around the outside. That's Mauro Prado, the two Prados trying to get themselves higher up the order, and this fighting is allowing Pablo Prado to get a little bit of a gap. I say a little bit of a gap because that gets closed up when he has to slow down, but Eli Caballero not getting into the back of him through Vale.
No, indeed. Nothing quite done there. Now, Melendez has been overtaken by Mark Winters. Mark's just got that done on the brakes into there. Let's have a quick look. Is it going to be a nice, straightforward move? Yep. Makes his intentions very clear, you could say. Into the little chicane. Nicely done there as well. Good respect as well from Alvaro to give him the space, because at the same time, while somebody does make their intentions clear, we have seen a lot of drivers move over, really block them off, and it causes issues. Now, somebody that I've heard the phrase cork in the bottle before. Jacob Money's going to be watching in his mirrors and hoping that he can stay away from Eloy Caballero, because he's got Pablo Prado, Justin Young, Mauro Prado, Stephen Hatter and Hans Blankart all in tow at the minute. Spaced out quite evenly, I must add, but, well, except these two. They were down the straight then. Although, actually... Oh, Eloy's had his own little moment here. That's why he's suddenly become part of this. Whoa, that's... To be fair, it worked, but in most scenarios, that wouldn't be the most advised type of rejoin, would it?
Probably not, no. I mean, it worked out. Maybe they'll get looked at for, I say for rejoin, but managed to make it work just about managed to make it work, did Eli Caballero. Meanwhile, though, further up in the field, this is for 13th place overall and in class, is Arthur Figueredo there, trying to keep ahead of Lauscher. I get both of them wrong way round, it seems. Anyway, he's going to be trying to get himself right way round in front of Arthur Figueredo, but not quite at the moment.
He did just actually overtake him down the straight. He had a massive slipstream, and then it looked like, yeah, look at that big dive down the inside. Lovely stuff. But he just cleared off in that final sector. Really did just clear off. Someone that hasn't cleared off, though, Bart Horston. They may have left the guys behind after Alexander Walton, but Burkhard Maring, I think, he has recently passed Peter Zuber, actually, for 5th place. And Peter Zuber has dropped down a considerable amount of positions. Let's have a look at what happened here. Oh, has Zuber got a slowdown penalty? He has. That's got slowdown written all over it, hasn't it?
It's so easy to do, though, isn't it? If you just cut a little bit too much of the track at areas like... Well, I think the easiest one to get it on is Beckett's, that right-hander, is just by cutting a little bit too much on the inside. Like there, we just seen Halston managed to get through. Actually, he gets through that bit. It was like this corner here that's the real kicker. If you get a little bit too much over on the right-hand side there, you will be getting yourself a slowdown. Mark Halston, though, navigates that very well. Gets a good run out of Chapel as well, so it doesn't seem to be under too much pressure going into Stowe. And then another overtaking opportunity will present itself, of course, down into the Vale chicane. No chances yet for the moment, however, for Alexander Walton, the Sims Esports car that is going to try and sit in behind, maybe use the slipstream to his advantage potentially with the pit stops that are going to be coming up in around about, I think, half an hour's time.
Yeah, they will soon come around quickly, I'm sure. This is Fernando Teixeira. Oh, looking down the inside of Christopher Stoll. And Christopher manages to stay ahead through that section this time around. Michael Flus on the back of Alvaro Melendez, although, again, the dirty air really not helping him there. It looks like a bit of damage to Alvaro's car. If we go on the nose, you can see the back end of it just seems to be pushed up a little bit there, on the back of that Dallara, so maybe not quite handling to its best ability, but we've seen, haven't we, before, how sensitive these cars are to floor damage, aero damage. The tiniest touch can really shake them up in terms of their pace.
Yes, exactly, as we're seeing now. Fernando takes the area, trying to keep ahead of Christopher Stahl and Jose Buizon. He goes down now to the inside, keeps himself ahead of Christopher Stahl for now. But while all this fighting is going on, Jose Buizon in the Meridian Motorsports car is going to try and have a look. Oh, that's a massive track extension there from Timothy Hayden. And I think that can also sometimes, if you do it too much, can result in a slowdown. He doesn't seem to be keeping the speed off for the moment. He's really wringing the neck of his LMP2 car, isn't he, to say the least, sending it through cops and trying to keep ahead of Merjim Aliou in the VLX Esports car.
He is, and we've got battles all up and down the order again, and I repeat what we said at Daytona, it's just so exciting to have all these battles. We often do see these Dallara P217s in multi-class championships, of course. They are endurance racing cars, that's what they're purpose-built for. But you only ever get, say, like 10, 20 of them. But when we've got a massive field like we have today of 42 of them, and the whole field is made up of these cars, they don't have to worry about slower traffic in the form of GT machinery. They just have to worry about each other. And it's fantastic because they just treat it like it's a touring car race, but in these incredibly potent machines. They are so capable. And it just makes the racing even better because these drivers have got so much capability in these machines. And to be honest, a lot of them really do wring the necks of them, as you said there, Ed. But the dirty air is, of course, the main factor that they have to consider when trying to make a move and getting too close. We've seen it a lot, of course, in things like Formula 1 recently, where in the last sort of 10 years maybe, the whole dirty air situation, other than slipstreaming like this, has just been a real nightmare for everyone.
He's going to look down to the inside. He got a good run there coming out of the loop through Aintree, but he has to back out of it a little bit there as we see the car in front cover him off into Brooklands. This is a replay of, though, you think so, of Ale just seems to loop the rear of the car around out of the loop. And that's probably why the callers named it, because it's so easy just to take a little bit too much speed into it, and you'll find the rear of the car overtaking the front in no time. Meanwhile, though, the lead of the race is still firmly in the grasp of Maxime Brient in the Movano sim racing car. Look at that, though. He's cleared the gap to 3 seconds, almost 3 seconds, to Ramez Azam there, the Sims Esports car. And he's definitely keeping him a little bit more honest than I think we saw at Daytona, where Maxime Brient had, I think this time last Daytona, it was, 7 seconds, I think, at this point? Just because of so much fighting going on for the top two positions, or not top two, for second place rather. Meanwhile, let's have a look throughout the rest of the field. Where is Bart Horsden? He's in a little bit of a fight still, I think, with Alexander Walton, who is half a second behind, and then half a second behind him is his teammate in the Sims Esports car, Burkhard Maring. And the Sims Esports cars, they're now in the same spot together, but they can't really afford to fight with each other. They need to be a bit more strategic because, Stephen Orrell goes for a little bit of an excursion through, I think that was actually coming out of Beckett's. A little bit of a weird one. It's so easy, though, to get a twitch on in these LMP2 cars as well. If you're just trying to send the car in, safest thing to do is to just go onto the grass. Is this what happens with Stephen Orrell? We're going on board with him now. It just seems to that's not understeer, that's chundersteer. That's horrible to get, isn't it?
Really did. It didn't want to go left, and it's still not behaving itself now, is it, really? Maro has had one over on Pablo Prado. The two of them swapping places there in the Banzu RX Flow machine. Joseph Shanley in the chat, could you share the live stats link? Yes, I will get you live timing, mate. Do bear with me. I thought I'd put that in the description, which I will do now for you. There you go. We will also pin that message to the top of the chat so you can all get it from there. But yeah, live timing is available, but please do bear in mind that when you're looking at it, things will change a lot in terms of the relative gaps to one another, because whichever car we're looking at live on stream, because it feeds from my PC, whichever car we're looking at live, it will then generate the gaps from there. So the cars ahead will show how close they are forwards from there rather than just behind the leader. This is Christopher Stahl who isn't very far behind Jose Buizan at the minute. This is for 16th and 17th place, and of course 18th place. Rodrigo Lazowski just behind them as well there. Really good fight here, and of course Rodrigo, he's in the box seat now, but again, just needs to be careful of all that dirty air. There are so many corners on this circuit that rely on that aerodynamic grip, and it just goes away so quickly. We didn't see anywhere near this much at Daytona. Look at that, they're on the brakes though. Down the inside goes Lazowski. Great stuff, a little bit of a cutback, but look at that, nicely covered off for the left. Following very closely is Christopher Stahl, but Jose Buizan, he's checked out now, hasn't he? He's just had the chance to run away.
That was a great shot, though, on board with Rodrigo there. Just seeing him sending it into Village there, and he's going to have to try and cover off the inside. Meanwhile, further back, we're seeing more fighting going on. This is Mauro Prado. They're trying to get ahead of the pro driver, Eloy Caballero, in the Meridian Motorsports car. So, Mauro Prado, he's going to try and put himself with a car between himself and his teammate Pablo Prado in the Banzu RX Flow car as well. Let's see though how he can do it, because Eloy Caballero, he's got his own race to think about. He can see a few positions there in the pro class just up the road. If he can get ahead of Jacob Money, he's got plenty of positions that he could easily make up, but it's very difficult to make up positions and focus on catching up when you've got a car right up your rear bumper, as Marco Prado is right now. Gonna see if he's gonna get a good run now out of the final corner onto the hangar straight. He catches up with the slipstream, but not able to really send it, and then dirty air comes into effect. So difficult to get on the throttle when you have got a car just in front of you that's really reducing the amount of grip you have. Look at this though, he gets a good run through the Vale chicane, but then there's no real opportunities to overtake because he can't exactly send it into Abbey.
No, it's not really a sendy corner, is it? You don't get that much of a chance to dive down the inside on the brakes. You don't build up too much speed. Cine Nominee shouting in the chat there, of course, that it is Marco Prado. It was one of the changes I had listed for this week, but we did have quite a few to make. But thank you very much for reminding me. So it is Marco and Pablo Prado, of course. But again, he's on the back of Eloy Caballero, his countryman, down the back straight towards Brooklands. Big slipstream now down the inside. And Marco, is he going to get that made? Into Luffield, uses all the Astro, does Eloy Caballero. Marco, the AM driver, of course, going up against the pro driver, as Ed rightfully pointed out. Bit of gravel on the exit. That was feisty stuff, flipping heck. Slightly out of shape on the exit there. That would have scared the absolute life out of Eloy. He cuts across the front of him saying, come on, mate, sort it out. Careful through cops. We've seen so many people go wide. That's why he's flashing the lights. He's not happy about the fact that Eloy, to be fair, he's just racing him, but I suppose in Marco's mind, he's getting held up here because he knows that Jacob Money in front of them is going to try and break away in that Positively Racing machine, and that, of course, is second place in class.
Exactly. Look at the livery of Jacob Money. It's a nice standout livery, isn't it? You're not going to miss that at all. Marco Prado, he's just getting so close to Eloy Caballero, but at all of the points that you can't really overtake, and all the points where you're getting the worst effect of the dirty air. His best chance, as we've already seen, is to get a good run through Village in the loop and absolutely send it down the Wellington straight into Brooklands, but he wasn't able to pull it off last time. He's going to have to try and do a lot to pull it off this time around, but we're going to see as they start now their 15th lap of the race. Already the dirty air means that he's washing out wide through Abbey, washing out wide through Farm as well. Then on these slower corners, he's really able to gain and get a good run and gets a better line, I think, compared to Eloy through the loop. You can see you keep picking up the throttle a little bit easier as well. How close is he though? 0.3 of a second now, 2.5 tenths of a second. Not really enough to send a move. So yet again, Marco Prado can't find a way past Eloy Caballero.
Looks to me like he backed out a little bit there as well. As you said, when it just got under about 1/4 of a second, the gap just opened up again. He might be fuel saving for a minute. He might just be re-evaluating where he's going to attack here and try and get through, because I mean, I think we can all see that Eloy at the moment, through no fault of his own. He's a bit of a roadblock for Marco Prado, but this circuit is proving that it's just quite difficult to overtake here. We've had an issue for Lee Tucker and EJ Filner as well. We'll have to have a look at those in just a moment because I want to see what Marco can make of the run out of here. He's gone back a little bit, so he's not got so much dirty air to deal with. On the power as well as he can be. Ivo Lobsha just ahead of this, by the way. He's coming to the pits, the Positively Racing driver. But look, he's just nowhere near enough to make a move. So we'll have a look at what happened to Lee Tucker in the Apex Tech Racing machine. Oh, just runs wide. The grass and the Astro is not going to be your friend there, Lee. Manages to just stay out wide and be out of the way. EJ Filner had an issue at the same corner. Oh, it's out of shape one way, flicks the other, and it's in the middle of the road, unfortunately, for EJ, but does crack on. Maybe a bit of a spin on the exit. Further up, Timothy Hayden has got Mergia Maliu and Ajibola Lawal just behind. Scuderia Gunas right in the middle of this. He's got Molnar Peter in there. Oh, Fernando Texera side by side with James Ibram. Still leading the AM class. Great stuff there, but we will go back to this because inside this top 10 and just outside it as well, we've just had some fantastic battling once again, haven't we? They're just always going for it.
Exactly, yeah. Ibola Lawal in the number 10, in 10th position, the number 14 car. Under a lot of pressure from Molnar Peter, the Impulse Racing car. Look at that, he's ever so close coming out of Magus Beckett's complex, but then gets a little bit of dirty air for his troubles. Slows himself coming out of the corner. Is under pressure, but our race leader Maxime Brienne is now coming into the pit lane. So is Bart Horston just behind in the Iridium Motorsports car. This is allowing Ramez Azam in the Simsa Esports car to take control and take the lead of the race. It seems to me that Ramez Azam might be trying a different strategy because to me, Maxime Brent coming in at not even a half an hour gone in the race seems a little early for me.
Yeah, he's not the only one though. Look at them, they're all pouring in. We've got Bart Horston, Luca Fioravanti, Peter Zuber, Mergi Malio, Ayabola Lawal, Roberte Edward, Arta Figueredo, so many of them. Your AM class leader, first and second in the AM class, Marco Prado has gone through. Now he is not pitting this time around, so he will inherit the AM class lead, but we've got 3 Simsa cars in the top 3 now. Timothy Hayden is 4th in the Impulse Racing machine, but it's shaking up the order quite a lot here, as you would expect. I'm intrigued to see how many stops we get now, though, because for that many of them to be doing this under the half-hour mark, we're definitely looking at 3, but if they have to do a splash and dash near the end, could we potentially get 3 or even 4 with 1 really quick pit stop, or maybe 2 sort of shortened ones just to make sure they don't have to put so much fuel in the next time round?
I reckon we'll be looking at 3 and a bit fuel stops, whereas some of the drivers that we're still seeing on track, the likes of Ramez Azam, if they can constantly get their pit stops to last, say what, 30-minute stints, they could get away without taking that splash and dash come the end of the race. And that, well, because of the time you spend in the pit lane here, that could be the difference between race or class victory and missing out. Marco Prado seems to be in a very good spot at the moment. Has a bit of clear air as well, so he doesn't need to worry too much about the cars in front of him that he might have felt were holding him up. He can just focus now on the task at hand, and that will involve, of course, trying to get every last little bit of performance out of the car, as we're seeing now Ramez Azam and, well, all the other Simsa Esports drivers make their way into the pit lane. Where is Marco Prado going to be going in? He's still not coming into the pit lane yet, but he's not actually managed to get there for the moment. Is he going to extend this stint? No, he's not. He is coming into the pits now. Meanwhile, though, of course, we have this fight for 5th position in the AM category, and that's Justin Young trying to stay ahead of Hans Blanca and Stephen Hatter.
Yeah, some mega battling going on up and down the order. Once again, this championship showing us the very best of LMP2 racing, but with an extended sized field. It's awesome. Really do enjoy it for that. Now, we do have a wonderful little chase going on here, a bit further down the pack. Stephen Hatter. Now that livery up close, when you see the further detail in it, looks absolutely wonderful. the Gallo Manco machine. Well, I believe that might be the spec map that I've got saved from last time, but you never know. Looks like it is, to be honest. But Stephen Hatter, although he had the slipstream there, seems to drop away a little bit. There's Roy Mass, who was, of course, Roy Massett before, so apologies. CCTS Esports. Andy Spicer, who he was just battling with there, has gone in the pits. Further up, we've got Merjim Ali right on the back of Molnar Peter once again. Italian driver on the back of the Hungarian driver. Two flags very similar, obviously, just turned 90 degrees. But this is the thing. You are going to get drivers at this point now. I think with seeing how early a lot of them have pitted, we're going to see quite a number of these lot just holding on and staying behind other drivers to fuel save, I reckon, because that's surely one of the only tactics you can have at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Fuel saving is, I think, going to have to be key for those drivers that pitted a lap earlier compared to their competitors, really. But we're seeing the fights going on. Ivo Labsha there having to back out of a move and really expressing his displeasure, I think, with Drew Lloyd up in front with quite a few flashes of the headlights. The lovely livery, the Positively Racing car, as we said, it's very difficult, though, for Evo to try and get ahead, especially when you're going into a section like that where the dirty air is so prevalent. Meanwhile, though, Rodrigo Lizowski is trying to potentially put off James Ebram, and has that actually worked? I think it might have done, because you all know James Ebram, I thought he was running wide and going to make a mistake, but no, he actually did come up behind Lizowski in the end there, so it did work out for the FuelTech Esports driver to get ahead of, well, our AM class leader. Now he's only got one car between himself and then second in class. That's Jacob Money.
Yeah, little bit of strategic stuff there from James Ebram, I reckon. He's just thinking there's no point fighting you. You're in a different class. I'm just going to get out your way and let you go about it. The FuelTech Esports team driver has lost 4 places from where he started. That was Rodrigo Lizowski. So he is back on the rise. Bless you. We've got Daniel Andres, currently 20th in class, surrounded by the AM drivers at the minute. He's only lost 1 place from where he started, though. We saw earlier he didn't have the smoothest of qualifying sessions. Maybe just a lack of practice, or just maybe can't quite get the car hooked up round here. It is a very... Oh, there's another example of it. It's just one of those circuits that whenever you go to it, just feels like you always get the worst out of your car. They just do not seem to handle around Silverstone. It has this curse on cars like this. Same with GT3 cars as well, as down the inside goes Roy Mass. Nothing happening there, though, for him. But still, it's good to see this, though, because while we do get some of the AM drivers holding off a bit and letting some of the pro drivers through, it's nice to see that little battle between the two of them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Although, I don't know what you mentioned about GT3 cars around here. I absolutely loved them when I was having a little bit of a bash with the GT3 cars here, of course, in the BMW sim race as well. One make trophy that goes on every other Wednesday. I'm not going to say how I did, but I did get a race win. So, you know, just slide that in there. You know, as Roy Mars is going to try and slide his way up the inside of Daniel Andres if he gets a good run out of Chapley. Can't quite get it going, though. So, again, Roy Mars needs to wait another lap before trying to get himself higher up the order. Meanwhile, Jose Buizan, we can see now the Iridium Motorsports car. There's Iridium everywhere we seem to look. They're always involved in a battle here, there, and everywhere. Jose Buizan now under pressure from Rodrigo Lizowski. We already saw him dispatch of James Ebram a couple of laps beforehand, and now he's going to have his sights firmly set on Jose Buizan, and this is a change for class position, so it might not be so easy for Rodrigo this time around.
Yeah, that's it. I think James was just being kind and getting out of the way, knowing what pace Rodrigo has. He did a 147.6 last time round compared to the 148.0 of Jose Buizan. So he certainly has the pace over him currently, or at least recently he did anyway. Depends what he's done now that he's behind him again, because look at that, through cops you could hear the understeer there. It really does wash out wide. It's a corner that's very difficult because of how quickly you go. It's just so tough to get it right time after time. You have to really commit to it, and when you have committed or over-committed, you can either cut too much of the inside or you go flying off wide. But now we have Maxime Briand still leading the way at the moment. And as we're half an hour into the race now, I don't know whether it's going to be pronounced Time or Timmy in the chat, but honestly, wonderful timing in all honesty, because I was just about to mention the fact that we will see the gap between these guys now from the leader, because at the end of the day we have the ability to slow that down so you can see just how far apart everybody is, and that shows in class as well. So you will see that where you can see there James Ebram, there is no time next to him. The next AM driver down, Jacob Money, is the gap back from him. So that is how far apart they are. But still, you can see then Maxime Briand 3.7 seconds clear, and then there's another, nearly 7 seconds back then to Bart Horston, who has actually ended up in a bit of clear air here. He's got Alexander Walton 1.5 seconds back, but that's not too much of a threat at this point, is it, Ed?
Yeah, exactly. He was under a lot of pressure from Alexander earlier on, but now it seems to me that Bart Horston has cleared himself a little space for himself. He can set his sights potentially on getting clear runs and trying to just hit his lap times, hit his marks, and think, you know what, if I can get it right, I could maybe set myself up for a place on Ramez Azam higher up the order. Meanwhile, of course, in the AM category, James Ebram is leading the way 8 seconds to the good on Jacob Money right behind him. But he's got obviously a car on track between himself and Jacob Money, and that is Christopher Stahl, the Bull, out racing 2 car. I'm going to see exactly. Well, let's have a look. Where is all the other cars? This is Jose Buizan now, and he's actually having a fight with Ivo Lauscher. Again, we're seeing Ivo, or Ivo, whichever way you pronounce it. I'm sure he'll let us know, trying to find a way around, but it's really difficult to do so. These LMP2 cars, they don't like to follow each other, but it's a circuit that you need to be able to follow closely and get good runs out of the corners to actually make the most of the overtaking opportunities that present themselves, like, say, going into Brooklands and going into Stowe, perhaps.
Yeah, there's a number of places where you could easily get a move done, and there's other places where you need to work a bit harder for it. And a lot of the time, in cars like this, it's just better to wait for a straight and just slipstream past them. Mergy Maliu's had an issue here in the VLX esports machine. He was running a bit further up. Oh, again, in the loop. It does a loop, unfortunately. Oh, he goes to back out. That was the number 65. That was Roberte Edouard, the Romanian driver, nearly making contact. That was very feisty indeed. I just brought up the track map there just to see the distance between some of them. You can see, if we go here with James Ibram, the number 1, in the bottom left of the map at the moment, he's got quite the distance to second in class, and they've even lapped a few of the other AM drivers as well so far. Maxime Briand, while he does lead the race, he's not massively far out in front though. The gap's actually come down now, 3.4 seconds to Ramez Azam, so he's doing a really good job. Maybe a bit of slipstream off the car in front, but it's not illegal, is it, really? Let's face it, he's doing a good job of managing the traffic. But it's starting to spread out a bit at this point, Ed. We're 40 minutes into the race as of now, and I really do not know how that has flown by so quickly once again.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now where we can start to see the different strategies of each of the drivers start to make their cases known, but it's not allowed the field to spread out whatsoever, because now, well, this is Marco Prado trying to catch back up to Jacob Money, and this is going to be a fight for second in class. So Marco Prado in the number 7 car getting very close indeed. Apologies, frog in my throat. Very close indeed to Jacob Money, but as we keep saying, not enough to send a move. Instead is piling the pressure on and trying to see where Jacob is weaker, what areas of the track are gaps opening up for Marco to send a move. Well, a good chance to do it is if you get a good run out of the loop, if you can go a little bit wide and then get a later apex, get on the throttle a bit earlier. That really does open an opportunity into Brooklands, either down the inside and trying to go ahead, keep your car in front going through Luffield, or trying to go around the outside and then get the inside. For Luffield, plenty of places to go, but Marco Prado seems to get a little bit of wheel spin coming out of the loop, and that means that he's not going to have any opportunities to overtake into Brooklands and Luffield. Instead needs to wait a little while, put his car in the best position, coming out of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. You need to get that section perfectly done to get a good run out of Stowe and avoid all the dirty air that comes with it.
Yeah, you just got to try and line it up properly, and we both know, don't we, mate? It's easier said than done. That this further up though is a battle between the two Impulse Racing teammates. Hopefully they don't make too many impulse decisions here, because they've got Molnar Peter just behind as well, watching the number 9, the 95 and the 96 side by side. Very close stuff between the pair of them. Oh, big slide as well from Peter Zuber on the exit. Now what's Molnar Peter going to do as well, because he's going to want a piece of this. Just behind them, I believe, no, that's not for position actually, that is Winters in there as well. I said before, didn't I? You're not going to miss that bright green machine, but they seem to have sorted it out now, but I don't know, I wouldn't be too sure at this point. Great racing either way, nice and close. That's what you want, especially between teams as well. And this is the thing, I was broadcasting the Scandinavian GT series last night with two of the Coanda Junior drivers in there, and although they were working together, they made it look like they were Hamilton and Rosberg having a good old fight back in 2014 and whenever else, because they was just so fierce how often they were down the inside. Like, look at this, cutbacks galore as well from the pair of them through Brooklands into Luffield. It's great racing. It makes for such a spectacle, especially, as I say, when it's between teammates.
Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking that if they're all in the same Discord together, they can at least communicate a bit with each other and let each other know what they're thinking. But it's so tricky. I've driven with teammates before, and a lot of the times in these, like, I guess what you'd call shorter races, not really endurance. It's a bit of a mixture of the two. You'd usually try and definitely mute yourself so you can focus on the fights that go, but always follow the rules of never hitting your teammates. They're doing a good job of that at the moment, but you never know. As soon as we say that, the commentator's curse could strike. We're going to have to keep looking at this fight, I think, because, well, all of these Impulse racing drivers are so good. As I say that, there's so many battles everywhere that we can't afford just to stare at one area of the track, because everywhere else there's battles galore elsewhere, and I think this is one of them that's forming up or still raging on. Pablo Prado on Justin Young here.
Yeah, Pablo knows that he needs to go after Marco Prado not too far ahead. Pablo, of course, leading the championship in the amateur division, so he's ahead of Justin Young by just 2 points in the championship, and that is the car right in front of him at the moment. But he needs to be conscious of Hans Blankart in there, the stage 1 racing machine. He's going to have a good run actually here. What can he do about this? Over to the right, make sure you leave room, boys. You don't need to come left. You do not need to come left, Hans. Oh, and maybe a bit more of a touch as well, but I mean, call it critical, but you just don't need to do it. Oh, Pablo's too busy with flashing his lights. He didn't quite know that the 768 of Stephen Hatter's there. Oh, and he doesn't leave the room on the inside. It was all a bit clumsy from multiple parties, but unfortunately, your championship leader there, Pablo, is the one that loses out. But what do you make of that, though, Ed? I mean, to me, you know, Hans doesn't need to keep going left there.
Yeah, he has. It's a bit of I think both of those drivers are trying to squeeze each other, and neither of them wants to back out. That's just what happens when you have two drivers that really commit. And then we see Stephen Hatter in the back of the picture as Hans Blankart comes through. And I see Stephen Hatter, he leaves space on the inside, but then down the inside he can't vanish. But at the same time, does he back out? I don't know. I think Stephen Hatter, you might forgive him for being a bit of a mad hatter after all of that. Of course, he's going to try and focus now though on the race at hand and get himself up the order. And Pablo Prado, after what's been such a promising race from his perspective, is struggling all the way down now in 7th position in class.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough scenario, wasn't it? So much going on, and then all of a sudden it came to a head. Now, Luca Fioravanti has just got past Alexander Walton here, the DRS Wave Italy machine going through, but now back down the inside goes Alex. Luca carries the speed around the outside into the left-hander, moves over a little bit, but that's the thing, you get that a lot around here. Burkhard Maring, the other Simsa esports driver, trying to come through as well. It's a two-pronged attack on Luca Fioravanti. And which way are they going to go? They could try and, as one of my friends described it, they could try and zonter him as they go through, but you never know how well that can be choreographed with teammates. Lee Tucker's had an issue, unfortunately, and gone back to the pits, so something serious has gone on there, but Now we've got an inter-team battle with the Simsa guys. Burkhard Maring looking down the inside of Alexander Walton. That is not helping, he says. And two German drivers really fighting one another all this time, though. Luca Fioravanti's going to be laughing his head off in his mirror's head.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure what's going on. You'd want to try and work together because they both know, at least from what I saw coming out of the loop and going down into Brook's little snapshot we have, is that these Simsa guys, they are both faster than Luca Fioravanti. It's good just to keep the order as it is, keep Alexander ahead, but then Burkhard just behind, and then let them both work together to try and get ahead of Luca Fioravanti. It's early on in the race. If they feel like they need to swap positions later on in the race, they certainly can do so, but for now, it's not worth doing all these little silly team games. It's worth just sitting in behind, keeping it nice and consistent, let your teammate try and fight with the car in front, and then pass on by if the gap or when the gap presents itself to you.
Yeah, indeed. It's a very strange one, but great again to see drivers fighting in their own team. Gotta love that. They've got the pros at it as well. Impulse Racing just behind Peter Zuber there in 7th position. Now I want to see what happened to Lee Tucker because he seems to have ended his race. Oh no. Oh, that's into the wall hard at the final corner, and Lee is going to disappear to the pits, unfortunately. That's a real shame. But we know how easily it can be done. We keep saying it. And we've seen plenty of examples of it this evening so far. So we're over 45 minutes of the way through the race, nearly at the halfway point now. As, Rodrigo Lizowski is off big time. Where on earth is that out of Maggots and Beckett's?
I don't know. It's a weird bit of the circuit. No, this is the beginning of the lap. This is going through... It just goes... Hardware failure.
Yeah, throttle stuck open there. Let's go on board and listen.
It just seems everything cut out.
Yeah.
Like the wheel went straight and the throttle went open.
I've seen this before when people have an issue with the brakes. And see, there. Yeah, the force feedback, it seems, like, leveled the wheel out. Almost as if he wasn't holding on to it, though. It, like, leveled the wheel out, didn't it? And then, you know, the throttle stuck open. I've seen a few issues before where when people are on the brakes while turning, there have been some sort of, like, calculation errors or something go on. And a piece of hardware, when it's trying to calculate everything at once, you know, the car is slowing down, there's a bit of force feedback, you're on the brakes, it's blipping because it's on the throttle. There's so many inputs going in at once that it does cause a bit of a sort of fluctuation of issues. And then, yeah, that was a very strange one indeed for Rodrigo. Ivo Lobscher has got damage and is really limping here. He's been off the circuit while this has gone on. He's on the apex there, needs to be careful.
The whole right-hand side of the car's been taking a hit.
Yeah, it must have gone in a wall or something. Now, it's not the... Oh, that's a horrible snap. Oh, that's a horrible snap the other way, that is. Let's go on board. See, normally it'd just float around and you go off to the left or then flick it right, but it's that third snap. Oh, that's a massive hit. Massive hit for a very pretty livery as well. He is in the Positively Racing team, but I don't think there's much positive about that, unfortunately, other than the repair bill. Now, speaking of repair bills, Jacob Money, is he going to be able to front the cash to hold off Marco Prado? I don't think so at the minute, because Marco has been on a real charge here. Should call him Marco Pronto, because he's really been on it. But at the same time, we've been talking all race about how difficult it is to overtake here. And, Eloy Caballero has had a little moment here and stopped. What's gone on here, Ed?
Yeah, you're going to see it now. This is going through the loop again. Is this just similar? Yes, it is, but it's a very slow, sad LMP2 spin. And then, well, that's Stephen Hatter going through. And if he wasn't a mad Hatter before, he's certainly going to be one now. He was doing everything wrong, trying to stay out of the way. And then it seemed to me that, well, Caballero just got on the throttle a little bit, tried to get out of it, but in doing so, found himself colliding with the side of the Galamanco car, the 768 car. But meanwhile, of course, Jacob Money, he's had a lot of time with clear airs. That allowed him to maybe bank a little bit of tyre life, bank a bit of pace perhaps, and try and clear a margin ahead of Marco Prado. It's, I think, only time will really tell. The two cars are going to be going wheel to wheel very shortly, though, because, well, Marco Prado has been a man on a mission all race long, hasn't he?
He has indeed. The Banzu RX Flow machine with its very chrome, shiny gold livery. He's clearly not putting his drivers off. Look at this, though. So close together. He plays it nice and safe through the first couple of corners. So difficult to get right time after time, especially with how much this car wants to break away. You're going through two really quick corners, two really slow ones that have got so many lines that you can take through them. And then, of course, you're going through a fast kink on the throttle while trying to get the car stabilised after being on the curb and on the grass as well. So it really is a very difficult piece of circuit to get right. Prado goes to the outside. Into Brooklands they go. They break pretty much identical times. He's going to go for a bit of a cutback, going to run into Luffield. Money uses all of the runoff. Now look at this. Late apex in Luffield, but that short shift just couldn't get on it, could he? Jacob Money's done a really good job there to get that out of Luffield in the way he did. Doing a sterling job, you could say, against Marco Prado. That was a very out there pun, wasn't it? Still,
I enjoyed it.
He's doing the job, though. Further up, Merjim Aliou is hopefully not going to be merging anytime soon with Fernando Teixeira. But these Fuel Tech Esports drivers, Fernando and his teammate Arta Figueredo, they've both been on a real charge as well so far, and they did the same at Daytona, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. They've all been doing a very good job indeed. As you've been mentioning, I think, though, that this is definitely, at least for Fernando, this is, if he finishes now in 14th, this is going to be his best finish, considering last time at Daytona, I think it was a 16th place that went Teixeira's way. He's going to try and make it, though, a 13th place if he can get ahead of Jim Aliou, the driver that we saw quite a few times lose the rear of the car. He seems to have got that under control. We're not seeing any alley-oops from Aliou for now, but just a slight nudge up the rear from Fernando. And that could be what we are seeing. They're going to try and keep it clean, of course. All of these drivers would never want to do anything dirty, do anything untoward to get positions. It's just such a great championship, though, as we keep mentioning, Chaz, that battles are everywhere we look on track. And this is another one that's lined up because, look, Daniel Andres is at the back of this long car train. He's got Roy Massett just in front of him, and he's going to try and see if there's any way through. There's a back marker, I think, up ahead that they're both trying to navigate. That is the 46 of Andy Spicer. Getting a little bit hot and spicy there with Daniel Andres. He's trying to look each way and everywhere and can't find his way through. This is what happens, though, I guess, with these longer races. You will, of course, encounter the back markers, and it's all about trying to get through them as cleanly as you can.
Yeah, that's it. You need to just pick your moments and be very careful about it. Look at that down the inside. Lovely stuff there. That was the number 37. Making the most out of that there. As I said about picking your moments, when you get a double slipstream like that, when are you not going to take the chance of that? That was Kamal Hashimi, who is now up 6 places into 25th. Awesome bit of driving. Daniel Andres still trying to make the move back, but no, not as easy as that through Cops, I'm afraid. Now, Maxime Brien still leads this race, but Ramez Azam is now within 1.2 seconds of him. As they go into Cops, Ramez has been flying here. We saw his great pace towards the end of the race at Daytona, but once again here this evening, he just brings this car alive after it just seems like he's looking after the tyres better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You can see through Maggot Speckets as well that he was slowly catching up to Maxime through the twisty bits. That does seem to me it tells both of us, doesn't it? That he's got the tyre life in his hand. He's really got the speed advantage. He's got the time where he's just been able to manage the race. I think that's the difference between Maxime Brent, is that he's quick over one lap, of course, but with the management of the race over the whole 2-hour length, this seems like Ramez's race that he could be in a shot for winning, because don't forget, he was able to go an extra lap longer in the pit phase, whereas Maxime Brien, we could expect probably within this lap or actually the next one, whereas Ramez, I think you can see maybe 2 to 3 laps time coming on into the pits. If Ramez makes it to the 1 hour mark, he's going to be looking very good for not having to take that extra fuel stop come the end, whereas with Maxime, I doubt he's going to be able to make it to the hour mark, and instead we could be having a look at a potential splash and dash for the Movano Sim Racing driver who has been leading up until now. But look, the gap now is going to be under a second just by how much Ramis has been able to close down.
Yeah, now he's going to get in that slipstream as well. So every time they go down a straight, every time that he gets stuck behind him, he can just fuel save that tiny little bit, and it's going to make a big difference over the course of just a couple of laps. We've seen it before, and it won't be the last time. Mark Winters is in the pits. Ivo Lobscher is as well. We've lost only... Well, it seems only Mark, Ivo, Stephen Orell and Robert van den Heuvel are the drivers we've lost so far. So still going strong with 38 cars out there on the circuit. We'll show you the positions on the map. You can see how it's spread out. And one thing you will pick out from there is that your AM class leader, James Ebram, is very much clear at the front in the exothermic racing machine. Smashing job so far. He's led from the very get-go. He did have more cars between him and his rivals in the AM class earlier, but even so, he's held on well. Kamal Hashimi is looking to make more progress here. He's chasing down Daniel Andres again. He seems to have got away and cleared off, but in front of them is Roy Mars and Pablo Prado, who's... Oh, actually, that was Pablo Prado having a real moment there. Oh, whoa! No. Daniel Andres. What was that? Oh, I mean, he may have been on the brakes, but just didn't slow down enough there and just clattered into the back of him. It's a little bit clumsy, that, but, you know, I've said multiple times, haven't I, as we've got people pitting, by the way. I was just saying earlier, wasn't I, how difficult a section that is to get right time after time, because you're going from two very quick corners into two very slow corners where these cars are far from at their best. It's easier for me to sit up here and say he didn't slow down than it is to go and actually do it, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It was all, of course, because it was the Mario Prado, I think, or one of the cars that ran a little bit wide. Marco Prado, I think, ran a little bit wide, and that forced all of them to the outside of the track. And well, I think they were all trying to avoid an incident that might have happened, but it didn't happen until, of course, the contact happened from all of the cars avoiding what they thought was going to be an accident that then caused the accident. So, like we mentioned, it is easy, of course, to think about all the things like, oh, if they did that, they would have not crashed. But, well, you know, it's a lot harder when you're behind the wheel of these cockpits that are so compact as well. That's the thing that we keep mentioning, is how tight everything is in there and how little space you realise is actually being taken up by your LMP2 machine as Maxime Briand comes into the pits. Again, just a little bit shy of the 1 hour mark. That allows Ramez Azam to have clear air, and as well, because he was so close, within under a second, Ramez Azam, he doesn't have the slipstream, but now he also doesn't have any dirty air. Is this the chance for the Canadian driver to get a bit of clear air under his wings, get a little bit of pace going with him, and then see if he can keep himself higher up the order and maybe come out of the pits in front of the Frenchman, who has basically been leading every single lap until this point?
Yeah, he's been doing a great job so far. It'll be intriguing to see how it does end up. Just wanted to mention Timothy Hayden. Maybe not the most desirable fact about the race, but still something interesting. As we are in the sim now, we cannot see the definite incident points. We can't see everybody's incident points, how many off tracks, how many, say, 4Xs they've had. We don't get the grand total, but in our timing software that we use, SDK Gaming, wonderful bit of software, thank you very much, guys, we do get, excuse me, there you go, Meridian Audio, by the way, sponsors this event. I forgot the logo is not shown in the top right for some reason. Sorry, boys. We do get to see the off tracks, or what SDK picks up as off tracks, and I mean the highest number I can see from anyone else at the moment is Ayebola Lawal, which is 20. A couple of other drivers have got 10 or more, but Timothy Hayden is currently showing us 28 off tracks, so he's really pushing the boundaries of this circuit here at this point. I'm not sitting there trying to get him in trouble, but he certainly is pushing hard for it. We've actually had a few incidents here, Ed. Hans Blancart's had a moment, and oh, guess what?
Oh dear, it's again at that same corner. Oh my word, is that again That's Stephen Hatter once more. He's definitely he's going to be furious, isn't he, at that stage of the race? He's been trying to do everything right, but still comes across these little incidents here and there. As you see, AJ Fjellner. Oh, he does very well to keep out. Oh, you can just hear from Chaz just how sketchy it is if you lose it through those high-speed corners. Does incredibly well to keep a hold on his Solara LMP2 machine there. But going back to what we saw again, all the cars really struggling at the loop to keep the cars from looping around, as we're seeing all the drivers now coming on into the pits. We keep our eyes open as well for where Maxime Brient is going to be coming out, because he's on the circuit now. Whereas Ramez Azam, he's still in the pit lane. And will they be taking fuel? Will they be taking tyres in addition? I mean, they'll obviously take fuel, but will they be taking tyres as well? That's the key question.
It is indeed. It's going to be intriguing to see who can manage it over the course of the race. Now, Maxime Brient coming around the final corner. Obviously, the gaps haven't figured out for a lot of them since they've been in the pits, so please do bear with that. But where's Ramez Azam? Oh, he's just leaving now. There goes Maxime Brient, and he has cleared off with that earlier stop. It's not worked out for Ramez. That's a real disappointment. That I expected that it would make such a change, but no, it seems not. Ayebola Lawal for Scuderia Gunas is right up there. Bart Horston is fourth. He's dropped back a bit, but Ayebola Lawal flying at the minute then. Pitted on lap 32. It seems like the undercut is the way to go here, Ed.
It seems so, but don't forget, come the end of the race, Ayebola Lawal will have to take that extra fuel stop. So, of course, potentially could our race leader is 4 seconds up the road, but 4 seconds is definitely not enough time to go through the pits and take a smash and bash. Oh, is that the teammates colliding once? We've seen it happen so many times. Since that Molnar Peter, I think, was coming out of the pit lane and was speared into from his teammates. Arthur Figueredo as well. Massive damage to the left-hand side of the car. That is going to be curtains for, I think, maybe not Molnar Peter, but definitely, I think that was Ayebola Lawal who was having a lot of damage on the car. I want to see if we can go a little bit further back and find out from
it was Peter
if it was coming out of the pits.
Yeah, it was just literally as he came out. Let's go. Bear with me, everybody, while I try and find this. Here we go. So this is Molnar doing definitely nothing to do with the gear shifts. Up the hill he goes. Exit the pits. Now, where is he in comparison to the white line? He is right in the middle of the road, but that's a scary moment. No matter what, no matter who hits you, he is on the brakes. In all fairness, but the car just ends up right in the middle of the road. I think the other driver involved in that was, where's he gone now? I can't find him for the life of me. It was Arthur Figueredo. He's coming through here, sees the two teammates collide, goes right, and then just the tiniest touch from the car stationary. Big drifteroo.
It's so hard though, isn't it, when you come in at an incident at that amount of speed that you can carry in an LMP2 car to keep out of the way. It's not impossible, especially when they're spinning around and you've got clouds of smoke left, right, centre. So it's really just unfortunate. Wrong place, wrong time, and that could be his race done. And Dusty, just from one unfortunate little incident that he had really no fault in being a part of.
Yeah, that's racing sometimes, though, unfortunately, isn't it? We've seen it so many times before where you see a driver get caught up in something that was effectively nothing to do with them, and you just really do feel for them. And of course we do feel for Arthur Figueredo right now. But the battle continues. Maxime Brient now 4.3 seconds clear at the front of the pack. So he is really on a charge again now. He's back at the pits. Here is the damaged Molnar Peter. Drew Lloyd just in front of him now. I think Drew got past him very recently after the incident. Drew now up into 10th place overall. Now for your class lead, by the way, look at this. Marco Prado pitted a lap after James Ebram, who goes back down the inside. The two of them, in terms of their pit stops, James Ebram's pit stop was 49 seconds. Marco Prado's was 37 seconds. So he saved a lot of time somewhere. And I think what some of these guys are doing is potentially having a shorter stop now. Although I'm not sure whether it would make sense to do it now. They might have calculated the fuel because they know they're going to have 3 more stops. They might not be able to push it to the very end. I think they are, rather than filling it all the way up, they're just dotting the fuel stops out and not quite filling up all the way. But it's hard to know. I mean, Ayabo Lawal did a 25-second stop. That's half the time of Ramez Azam, who was 3 seconds longer than Maxime Brienne at the very front. So it's difficult to figure out that, because surely you've got to think, if they do fill it up all the way, they'll still have 3, maybe 4 stops, including a splash and dash at the end. So
yeah,
I'm wondering whether they're running the car light, maybe running it light on fuel, because they know that they're going to have that the 4th stop, sorry. So they may as well make each of those final 3 stops contain less fuel.
So, well, they're running it light to have 4 stops.
Yeah.
Because they don't think they'd get 3.
Yeah. Because if you think about it,
I'm confused, because if they're always running it light, they want to be pitting to get 3 stops. They want to be pitting on the half-hour mark. But some of the drivers aren't pitting on the half-hour mark, so they're going to be making 4 stops. Whereas surely you'd want to have it full fuel to always make sure you get past the half-hour mark, and then you just leave the last stop short.
Yeah.
I think what could be happening is some drivers might be taking potentially outside tyres or rears or fronts. They might be only taking a couple of tyres here and there throughout this race, because, well, as we know at Silverstone, it's a track that does eat through the tyres. If you've watched Formula 1, you'll know that a lot of teams were struggling last year with the tyres, and I certainly think that's going to be no different in these LMP2s. They really send it into the corners. They use a lot of the tyres in doing so, and maybe that could be what we're seeing with different drivers doing different things, with maybe taking a couple of tyres here and there, or waiting and taking the full set later on in the race. We don't know exactly what each of them are doing. Me and you, Chaz, we can only really just speculate and guesstimate.
That's the fun of it, though, I think. Just not knowing, and then obviously we'll speak to some of the drivers after the race, some of our top finishers in their respective classes. We'll be interviewing, I'd say 3, maybe 4 drivers after the race, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see who has taken tyres and whether they know any of the others that did. But what a wonderful, wonderful race we've already had so far. Still so much to go. We are, of course, over the halfway markers. Ooh, a little bit of a blink in and out there by Burkhard Maring. Or has he completely gone now? That looks like a... Oh. That was a proper blink in and out there by Burkhard Maring. Not sure... He's back now, so he's all right. But, oh, look at this. Alexander Walton maybe getting held up there by the number 28 machine. Further down, that's Kevin Aby. But now he's right in front of the number 7 of Luca Fioravanti. So this is another instance here, because of the speed of all these cars together. Even if it's lap traffic and they're trying to get out of the way, or even if they're just trying to run their own race, cover their own lines, it's not easy to get past the traffic, is it? Because, as I said before, it's not like it's GTE or GT3 traffic. They're not that much slower. They're cars that have the same capability. It's just the driver pace that's different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's what I love, sort of single make and single class racing, is that all of the drivers, especially with the single make racing, is all the drivers have the same level playing field. There's no BOP to whinge and whine about. It's all just down to the driver, down to the setups that you're able to develop and try and work on, either by yourself or with your teammates, of course. And it just really starts to separate some of the fast drivers from some of the other ones that pick the fastest cars, if that makes sense. It's everyone's on the same page. You don't get all of that little whinging and moaning you get with other leagues as well, with their own custom BOP, or if they follow iRacing's one. It's all just pure flat-out racing, which is something I love to see in pure flat-out racing from Luca Fioravanti since the start of the race, already making up 2 positions, the Italian, from his starting position of 8th place up into 6th. He's got a little bit of pressure behind from Burkhard Maring, who's unfortunately just gone backwards a couple of times since the start of the race, so as well as Alexander Walton, who we can see occasionally at the front of the shot, not the Apex Tech car in front, but the car just ahead of him. That is 5th place in class, and 5th place overall in this race.
Indeed. It's been a close battle, to be fair. Just in the sort of middle of the top 10 throughout the whole race, it has been quite close together. And none of these guys are really separated out or anything. They've just been staying in each other's slipstream, trying to just probably assess what the other driver is doing. You know, in a longer race like this, you have more chance. You can obviously worry about losing the cars in front, because as we've seen, that happens very quickly when it's someone like Maxime Briand, Ramaz Azam right at the front. Ramez still up there, 5.6 seconds clear of third place Ayebola Lawal. But Maxime Briand, at the moment, on his way to his second win of the season. But still, I say that, and we've got, what, 58 minutes of the race to go. So anything could happen. Sorry, 48 minutes of the race to go. My maths is, as you can see, beautiful. Luca Fioravanti trying to get past the 007 machine. Hopefully he doesn't need a smoke screen or anything fancy to do it. But slipstream will do. That's not anything that Q invented, is it? Through down the inside of Brooklands. And then into Luffield now. Just behind him, Burkhard Marin gets held up a little bit there. I think he was expecting a nice easy ride to get through. But 007 says no. And is he going to be ahead by Cops? That's focusing, yes. Luckily, luckily, that was Roy Maas there, just making the decision to say, nah, I'm not going to make a mess of this. I'm not going to fight that. We have had some more issues further down the order, actually, Ed. That's not the right car. That's his teammate. Here's EJ. Oh, look at that. Oh, to be fair, if you do that and don't
best thing to do.
Yeah, if you manage that and you don't go further off than that, EJ, fair play, mate. Michael Flus has had an issue though as well, Ed. Oh, guess what?
Oh, it's this corner again, and is it the same thing again? Yes, it is. Just looping it down a sad, slow, not even a half spin. That's a quarter spin really from Michael Flus there. Does well to avoid any contact from cars further behind and gets himself up on his merry little way down the Wellington Straight. Meanwhile, though, look at this. Battle's still raging on down the inside. Timothy Hayden, is he going to go for a bit of a bang on the door for good measure as they go through Club Corner? And he says, thank you very much. I'm taking that. And now, look, his teammate right behind, Molnar Peter. Yeah, you can flash your lights all you want, Fernando, but Timothy Hayden, he's sent it down the inside. He's going to try and clear up the road, unless, of course, Fernando can send a move into Village. Nope, and then has to wait a little bit, maybe into the loop. Again, no, by taking that tighter line, he's really hampered his exit coming out of the loop and then going through Aintree. Has that opened the door potentially for Molnar Pizza, who is, oh, maybe not Molnar Pizza's not quite close enough to send a move just yet. But I think as long as, say, Timothy Hayden, now that he's got clear air in front, can build the gap, we might be seeing another Impulse Racing car getting ahead of the number 082 car. Fernando could be finding himself in a whole spot of bother very shortly.
Yeah, he's going to close up down towards Cops. He feels the need to defend there, but I don't think he has to, because the dirty air will affect Molnar behind him. Look at that. He manages to get a better run out of there, for sure. Now, I want to just have a look back at this Timothy Hayden incident, because this was previous to it. He managed to get down the inside at Cops, but then it all went to pot, and then they changed back again down the straight. But this was the one that we caught. Now, he does go down the inside, but he hits the curb, look, and that's what bounces him wide into Fernando. So, you know, he's just being careful.
It's hard to see, isn't it, from that angle, if he was squeezed out onto the curb or not. If it was just a mistake.
I think that...
Here we go.
Yeah, I'd say he was. And then, you know, Fernando flashes the lights, maybe just as a distraction technique, but if that was in sort of anger of, what are you doing hitting me, I don't really think he's got a case there, unfortunately. Luke Schneider's had an issue, though, in the Holy Cow racing machine. Is he going to go off into the fields? Oh, yeah, another little slide on the exit of Brooklands. We've seen that not too many times at the moment, actually, but it does show you that these guys are right on the edge there, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a tricky corner as well. The different loads, you need to transfer the weight through the car. You've got a fast left-hander that you need to quickly turn into a quick sort of right-hander, and it's so difficult. You need to really have the balance, both in the steering and all the inputs you're putting on the throttle, trying to balance the rear of the car around, and it's so easy to get a little bit of a twitch on and then find yourself getting spat around in each way the car really feels like doing, and unfortunately there it fancies like spitting your left into the walls. But Very well to avoid too much major dramas going on. Meanwhile, although, of course, we're going back to this fight between Fernando and now Molnar Peter, who's got such a good run. He's down the Hamilton straight, looks around the outside. That's not the Hamilton straight, sorry, that's the other one. That's going into Copse, that is. And look at this, he's going to go too wide into Maggots. Oh, he's going to fight for it. Then he's going to have the outside for Beckett. Oh, no, he's going to go for it here. They go left, right, centre. I'm just about the same as you, Chaz. If I wasn't trying to cover up for all of my confusion with words, I'd be making little raspberries each way, everywhere. But look at this. This fight is still raging on. They're going to be going side by side into Stowe, down the inside. This is Molnar Peter's best chance of keeping in front, or getting in front, rather, of Fernando. And he does manage to pull off. Then he's going to probably try and stay as far to the left as he could possibly do. Going into Vale, he gets that move done very nicely indeed, but he certainly had to work for it. Fernando didn't let him have an easy time of it.
No, definitely not. That was so close through Maggots and Beckett's. I was sure that with that little overlap there, just the tiniest of touches, and we were going to see both of those P2 cars go flying off the road at some very, very high velocity. Michael Flush has had another issue, I'm afraid. Oh, and guess what? This corner has honestly been a nightmare for these drivers. To be fair, it's a nice save, nice little drift there sideways for him. It's not going to help you lap times, and it's not going to help you tyre temps. Now there is AB just getting out of the way. Hashimi's in the pits. We saw him having a good battle a moment ago. Eloy Caballero also coming into the pits for Iridium Motorsports. But we've just got to a moment here, everybody, where Ed and I are just going to take a quick break just to make sure we've got a drink, just make sure we're ready for the final assault on this race, because we are now 1 hour and 18 minutes in. 40 minutes to go. We're going to get at least another pit stop window. It's going to be interesting to see how things go on. But what we're going to do for you as a wonderful treat, because we all know how well he's doing out there, we're going to ride on board with Maxime Brient in the Movano sim racing machine. Ed and I will be back with you in a few minutes' time. Enjoy the ride. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. Or at least welcome to Ed and I. We're now back in the booth here at Silverstone on Sim Racers World TV for the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. We ride on board with race leader Maxime Brient in the Meridian Audio Silverstone LMP2 Classic, the second round of this wonderful championship. And Ed, we've seen so much action already so far. I don't really know how the last sort of half hour of this race is really going to top it.
Yeah, I don't know if my heart can take it, because all the time, especially from at Daytona, we found that the action really comes to a head in the first 20 minutes and in the last 20 minutes. So in about, 15 minutes time, I think me and you, we're going to have just sweat dripping off our foreheads. We try and look each way, left, right, centre, everywhere for all the action that's been going and all the action that's certainly to come here for, of course, as you mentioned, the second round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, the Meridian Audio Silverstone Classic. And it's certainly been a classic race, hasn't it? It's been brilliant everywhere we've seen battles, and this is a battle that's going on right now. Timothy Hayden just ahead of his Impulse Racing teammate Molnar Peter. So Timothy, we saw get ahead of Fernando earlier on in the race, built a bit of a gap. Molnar was a little bit slower to get ahead, but then eventually managed to do so. And now look at this. These two drivers have really caught up to one of each other. I'm sure I say Molnar rather has caught back up to Timothy's rear bumper. And well, I've already seen one time these Impulse Racing teammates go wheel to wheel. You might be seeing it happen yet again very shortly, because Molnar, the Hungarian driver, has been showing substantial pace in this sort of middle part of the race.
He has indeed, and a driver that's only just up the road from them. I just want to have a quick look at Luca Fioravanti's car, because he's had a bit of a moment. He was battling with Burkhard Maring before, while being behind Alexander Walton. He was the meat in the sandwich for Simsa Esports, but something has gone on here. So this is Fioravanti. Down the inside of the number 3. Oh, and that's your championship leader in the AM class as well. That was Pablo Prado, so he's gone off. And Pablo's had his own moment. Burkhard Maring goes through, laughing his head off. Let's have a look at what happened to Pablo out of that. He was attacking. Who was that? That was Daniel Andres. Gets a tap. Another tap. He just loops it around. A nice little drifteroo, to be fair. But I think Luca might have had a bit of damage off that. Let's have a look. Looks down the inside, but then the gap's gone and he's on the brakes. It's around. He gets a tap that way. And then... oof. He got very lucky there not to get hit again, didn't he?
Yeah, he seems to have picked up a little bit of damage potentially on the rear wing. As we're seeing Pablo Prado, this is live. This is him making a slight mistake going into Village and then into the loop as well. But he just seemed to take a little bit too much speed, locked the brakes up, but then had to get out of the brakes to avoid shredding his tyres any more than they would have done. And well, it seems like Pablo Prado might have a little bit of damage. I can't see any visibly on the car at the moment. Meanwhile, going back to this little fight, and yeah, as you mentioned, Luca Fioravanti might have picked up some damage here, there, and everywhere. We'll try and see exactly what has happened, though, because the Impulse Racing drivers, they are looking mighty fast at the moment.
Yeah, doing a great job. Seems like someone's had an almighty lock up through cops as well. Plenty of smoke left around there on the exit. But we stay with these guys because we've seen it before. Ooh, definitely some smoke there. I think
that might just be Luca blinking in and out.
Yeah,
smoke.
I was going to say, yeah, we usually have sparks and smoke and so on, don't we, as the car reappears and suddenly goes from 0 velocity to whatever speed it's doing. So, just leaving
I'm trying to remember as well. Was it Luca that had a speed that was almost Mach 1 at Daytona?
I think it might have been. He's actually come in the pits as Luca Fioravanti. So whether that was planned at that time or not, as we get a wonderful look at the beautiful DRS Wave Italy car, that's just over half an hour from the end. So whether this is his last stop or not, I'm not sure. Because, again, we have to try and do the guesswork up here in the commentary box, and this is the fun of it. But in all honesty, mate, I think some of these drivers could make it last to the end, as we see Winters coming out of the pit lane there.
Some could make it last, but others I don't think so. I think, as we saw Fioravanti, he will probably have to take a splash come the end of the race. So as well, potentially, could Maxime Brient. We've already seen him come into the pits earlier than Ramez Azam. We might be seeing him come into the pits again just before the half-hour mark, and if so, that's going to be really touch and go come the end of the race. Meanwhile, though, we're seeing Pablo Prado that we're following on board with, trying to get ahead of Eloy Caballero. And what has happened here? This is a replay of Alexander Walton just looping it around, and that was at Luffield, the corner that I don't think I've seen that at all this race. Is the car looping around purely on its own, no contact whatsoever.
I think he may be just getting on the brakes to avoid the lap traffic. Look, he brakes a bit harder than normal. Good save, to be fair, and he's lucky that there was just no one else coming, because otherwise he would have been picked up definitely at that point in the circuit. These are not short cars at all. They are very long bits of kit. But yeah, I'd say that he'd got quite lucky there. James Ibram's still leading this AM class. He's been phenomenal so far this race. Marco Prado has gained 15 places to be second in that class, and Jacob Money has gained 14 to be in third. In the actual class gains, though, I'm trying to figure out whether that's right or not. It seems to be wrong, but I think that that's not quite working by the look of it, because apparently James Ebron's lost 1, Marco Prado's lost 2, Jacob Money's lost 3, and so on. So not sure whether that is working correctly at the minute, because they can't all have lost that many positions. But even still, I mean, to get that many overall positions through the field is a really strong drive no matter what. We do have more smoke and tyre smoke going off. Somebody was off the road. Aibola Lawal is back in the pit lane. But Burkhard Maring is now only a few tenths ahead of Alexander Walton. I think he might have... He did, yeah. He passed him just after that incident, actually, last time round. So while we were looking at the replay, he had got through at that point. And how good do these cars look, Ed, when they're covered in muck and flies and all the spatters at the front of them? They look properly like they've done their job, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. They're, at the end of the day, they're just as much of the race as the drivers are, aren't they? And you can't have one without the other. And it's part of, I guess, you know what we like to say, it's sort of like the romanticism of motorsport, isn't it? The fact that these cars, they're put through so much, the drivers are put through so much, and to have the blood, sweat and tears of the drivers being visibly shown on the cars as well, all the little scuffs, all the little bits of pickup they've all got, and we keep mentioning it time and time again, but Le Mans, all the cars that we see at the end of that getting coated in the, whatever we call it, like the preservatives or whatever, so we can see each little mark, own little story to tell, of course, and that's something we absolutely love. And another story as well is Maxime Brien, our race leader, has come into the pits at the 1 hour 31 mark. That could be enough to see him till the end of the race, but depending on how long he spends taking fuel on board, Ramez Azam could get the jump in the pit lane, or he could come out very close, and then at the end of the race we'll see all sorts of fireworks kicking off, just as we're seeing fireworks between Aibola Lawal, and that is just in front of him, that is Jacob Money, who's been using all of his skills to great effect. Doesn't need the 042 car, still in the podium places. And well, this AM fight is certainly looking good, especially as well when you consider that James Ebram, who was leading massively at the start of the race, has now obviously come into the pit lane. Marco Prado isn't that far behind him at the moment. He's been catching him slowly but surely, and with this next phase of pit stops that are sure to come, Marco Prado might be able to find himself really challenging James Ebram come the end of the race, because if he goes a lap longer, he will of course be able to save a bit of fuel. He'll have a shorter pit stop, and he might find himself coming out either close to or maybe even in the lead of the amateur class. Meanwhile, though, Ramez Azam coming into the pits, and this is the thing we need to really keep our eyes on, Chaz, because where is Maxime Brien? Where will he be coming out? Where will Ramez Azam be coming out? Because this is the fight for the race lead here.
It is indeed. I'm just going to try and bring up where the two of them are on the track map for you. Hopefully this works so you can see. No, it absolutely loves me, doesn't it? Absolutely. There's Maxime Brien, and Ramez Azam is supposed to be in there. But
guess where Ramez Azam is.
Yeah, you can see he's after the little red line. We know that much at the minute. Although maybe this might work. There you go.
Wait.
1 and 4, so you don't need to put the comma in. I was just trying to be too polite to SDK. But Maxime Brien is that number 4. He is actually going to climb up now, so he may disappear or it may change. But he is going to be flying down that straight, and here he is. Ramez Azam has just started leaving the pits, but Maxime Brien, with just under half an hour to go in this race, retains that race lead. Nicely done. Luca Fioravanti is now behind Timothy Hayden as well. Oh, Kevin Aby's had an issue, Ed.
Oh, he's already getting a twitch going into the loop, and then that looseness seems to carry forth, and yet again another little sort of half spin, just to keep out of the way of the 35 that almost comes across him. Who was that? That was one of the Holy Cow racing cars. I'm not sure which one the 35 is. I'm trying to look through it, but for some reason my eyes are failing me. That was Luke Schneider that almost came across, but did very well to avoid any contact at the loop. And here we see Luca Fioravanti is actually now behind the two Impulse Racing cars. Now the DRS Wave Italy car that was up in 6th place. All they don't know is we see it coming out of the pits again. History nearly repeating itself with the Impulse Racing cars. They were, well, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, I think, if it happens again. So they're doing very well to avoid it. But look, still side by side, neither one seemingly wanting to give it up. And look at this. This is going to open up the door for Luca Fioravanti, who's given a bit of a nudge, given a bit of a bump, trying to find any way around. They managed to get through all in one piece, or do they? Because, I thought Molnar Pizza was going to come across the nose of Timothy Hayden, but they just about, I keep saying just about, because I can never be 100% sure with these drivers, but they get through nice and clean, and the pressure is mounting. Now Luca Fioravanti trying to get up to the rear bumper of Timothy Hayden. Oh, but look at that, the dirty air absolutely chunders through the downforce of Luca Fioravanti. There's essentially no grip whatsoever, massively loses out, going through cops, but then tries to close down through Maggots Beckets. Again, the dirty air says, no, you ain't doing that. And now the gaps start to finally extend just that little bit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame there that Luca couldn't work that to his advantage, but a little bit naughty there to give Timothy Hayden a bit of a bump from behind as they went down the straight. You don't normally see that in these cars. All these drivers know how sensitive they are to aerodynamic damage. I mean, the car looks very clean and fine at the front. He's not damaged the splitter or anything. I'm wondering if he's damaged the back of Timothy Hayden's car. Doesn't seem like it from here, but we all know how tiny the damage can be sometimes. But it was a very, very interesting move. But like you say, with the two of them being so close together coming out of the pits there, he had to try and at least take advantage of it, but it just didn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. But they did. All of those drivers, you have to say, did very well to keep it clean between all three of them, and soon all four of them, as Ivola Lawal decides to put himself into the mixture of this absolute concoction of cars that are fighting their way through the Silverstone circuit. Going back to what I was saying, it's just great driving from all of them involved, wasn't it, Chaz? Just to see that they were not giving each other any more than was necessary, and they kept it on the road. They managed to keep it from anything untoward happening, and we're still getting great racing as we've gone now past the 1 and a half hour mark, and we're into the final nearly 23 and a bit minutes to go in what has been a great second round of this Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship.
Yeah, indeed, the time does fly by when you're having fun, but Molnar Peter just at the front of this now, with the three of them just sitting behind him. He's not going to have the easiest run to the end if none of them need to pit at least. And as we go down in towards Stowe again, such a quick corner, isn't it, the long right-hander. And then into the final chicane as well. This is such a tough part to get right, not in just these cars, but any car really. When you're trying to slow them down so much, it just feels like the car wants to understeer really, really wide, and it's similar to corners like Murray's and Hell Corner at Bathurst. You know, no matter what you do, no matter what car you're in, it just always feels like you've got understeer going through there. It's just one of those horrible corners, but I suppose that's just part of the challenge of this circuit. I mean, I'm not really the biggest fan of this sort of section, as there's been something go on in front. That is Timothy Hayden around. What has happened to Timothy there? Let's have a little ganders.
Okay, so this is Luca Fioravanti, and is this passing a back marker?
It is. That's Andres.
And the 55, Daniel Andres. He's trying to keep out of the way. He can't really vanish on the apex. It's a tricky one to say. Of course, if you're Timothy Hayden, you'll be very frustrated that a back marker has hampered your race. But in, I suppose, Daniel Andrews' defence, he can't vanish on the apex of the corner. There needs to always be room given, even if he is a lap down. It's a tricky one to have a look at, and I think will definitely be looked at come the end of the race. But something that we can definitely say is that Timothy Hayden has lost that. What was a great position to score some much-needed championship points here at Silverstone. He's still, however, in the top 10, so but he hasn't lost out massively. He's just had a bit of a setback, I think.
Yeah, he's not lost too much of it. Oh, well, we've got Evie Craft in the chat is saying about every time Kevin Abey gets mentioned. Well, there's a moment. That's a big off. But to be fair, when you go off that quickly through there and you don't hit something, you've done a good job in all fairness. The gravel does slow the car down. Needs to be careful on the rejoin. Wow. Okay. Got away with that, I think is the phrase there. And I'll say no more on it. Back with Luca Fioravanti then. Another driver that's constantly been in the battle, no matter where he is on track. Ayabola Lawal just behind. Alexander Walton's just had a little off as well, it seems, actually. Not quite sure how bad it was, but he's only been off the circuit for about a second and a half, so can't have been that bad, in fairness. But this now, Ayabola's not really making too much of an impression at the minute, but we know, don't we, with the slipstream is in the background, that was a very disgruntled Timothy Hayden weaving around there, wasn't it? That was to say, what
disgruntled's a very kind word for it. I think it's a very democratic way of putting it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, see, we go back to it though, and he's out of the way, but you know, you need to still be careful not to squeeze into the corner there. And this is my amateur steward's hat that I've got on right now, but you know, you could say, yeah, the back marker could have backed off more, but he would have been just completely stationary, and you can't expect people to just stop, can you?
It's a really tricky one to call, I think, in that situation, and of course, us amateur stewards, we like to do things which way and the other way, but it's one of those scenarios where he's damned if he does, he might lose out a little bit of time, he could be under pressure going into, say, Brooklands and Luffield, but then it's also damned if he doesn't. Let's have a look at Ayabola Lawal. He's getting very close, isn't he, to Luca Fioravanti, and you said earlier, didn't you, Chaz, that Ayabola hasn't made much of an impression. Well, this is the impression he's making, sending it down the inside until he gets it stopped. I think flipping heck is the best way to describe it, because he was so committed, wasn't he, onto the apex of Vale. That's just immense. I want to see if we can get another view of that, Chaz, because that was an amazing send down the inside. He's from so far back, but just look, he managed to get it through, and he manages to get it stopped.
It is the fact that he got that stop that was amazing. Luca Fioravanti, hats off as well for giving him the room there, because he didn't have to, but that was just awesome stuff. And here he comes, ready. Surprise. But the thing is, he clips the apex with it as well, and then he knows that he can defend it on the exit. That's really strong stuff there from Ayabola Lawal. Let's go on board and have that again, because we were on board with him at the time, and I couldn't believe how far he came back. He lines it up early though, which is fair enough. You know, he doesn't dive out last second, hits the apex, there he goes. Gorgeous stuff. That was top notch.
He uses a bit of like the rear sliding as well that you can get in these LMP2s to actually slow the car down. He's teetering right on the edge of having it loop around on him. And in fact, he uses that to his advantage as we say, a massive incident. And that's Daniel Andrews again. He can't catch a break, can he, the Meridian Motorsports car? And he's had an incident there with, the number 28, who gives him a bit of a bump just for good measure. And is that 28 that got involved in that? That was Kevin Abey.
Again, as soon as I've mentioned that he's being noted down every time he's mentioned on stream. It's like that one guy that doesn't want to wait for air traffic control to clear it for takeoff. He just goes, right, stuff it. Let's get back on the road. Move out the way. Let's go. Come on.
It's very fitting, I guess, considering Silverstone used to be an old RAF base, but I don't think we want to be getting any airtime here if you can help it, of course.
He's
had I think, earlier on.
Sorry, he's had a moment after this as well. Something's gone awry again. I'm not sure whether there's damage from that incident. I'd like to go back and look at what happened before he got out of shape, though, because the car was completely sideways. He's still going normally, though. It was a good 20 seconds after, so it might be here. Bounces on the curb. It's gone around at Cops as well. It's a lovely livery, by the way. I do like the grey and yellow. It works very, very well. Let's just have a quick look. How long ago was this before it? So we'll go with Kevin Aby here. So that's with Daniel Andres. I don't think this was for position either, you know. I think he's just lost it out the left kink. We've seen drivers do that. Yeah, the back end gets away.
Oh,
saves it. Well, doesn't save it. Tries to save it, and unfortunately, it goes around.
He saves it into the path of another car, which is unfortunate. But you've got a feel for Kevin in all this situation. He's got his friend Evie in the chat trying to mark down all the times he's mentioned, and every time he's been mentioned, I think has been one that he'd rather forget. I think.
Indeed. Well, to be fair, I mean, in another league recently, I did have drivers asking me to give them at least 5 seconds of airtime each, which I don't want to call unreasonable, but you know, we're not here to look at everybody. But even still, Kevin has certainly drawn attention to himself there and got himself the airtime. Whether it was worth it or not, only he will be able to answer that. But now, Daniel Andres is under pressure from Kamal Hashmi. That car behind is 4th position. He lets his teammate through. That was to lap him. But now, Kamal looking for 6th place in the AM class, and Daniel Andres' car, that's definitely suffering with some sort of damage there, isn't it? Kamal's going to be through in no time down the hanger straight.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see, though, the aerial shot here from the chopper cam. Look at this. The car's closing down the hanger straight down the inside at Stowe. You're seeing just behind as well, Pablo Prado. He's going to try and have a slice of the pie. He's a bit late to the party, though, so he's going to try and see if there's an invite to the pie, but no, he's not. He's got the inside covered off from the 55. They're still going wheel to wheel all the way around. Kamal Hashmi has not gotten past Daniel Andres, so great defensive driving from Daniel, even though his car is a bit battered and bruised. And around the outside, look at that, Pablo Prado outside of club. Amazing stuff. And then look at this. Who's this trying to put himself into the mix as well? Who is that? Is that a
Fernando Teixeira?
Sorry, that's Fernando Teixeira now trying to carve his way up through. Tell you what, this is all kicking off, isn't it? It's the last little bits of the track, last little bits of the race where everything's going off. This is Marco Prado there, going wheel to wheel with Jacob Money, and oh no,
that's the second place driver, Ramez Azam.
That was Ramez. Oh my word, calamity for Ramez Azam as he got beached into the gravel.
It's broken, or as Lando Norris would say, it's broken. The rear left is completely broken on it. Look.
Oh, God.
That's heartbreak for Ramez Azam. Marco Prado has just... I mean, there's no other word for it. Sorry, Marco. He's just taken out 2nd place. This is what happened. Michael Floos just had an issue before this. But look at this, though. Jacob Money and Marco Prado having a great old battle. Chucks it down the inside for 2nd place. Not too much Marco can do about it. They're very close together. Marco moves over.
Back from Marco.
Yeah. Runs a little bit deep.
I think that's the only good thing we can say, though, after what happened.
He doesn't really leave the room, but just when he comes on, he just... I don't think he knew he was there. Although, I hate to bring this up, but, you know, it's my job as a commentator, so don't hate the player, hate the game. But Marco Prado in this situation, he was starting to flash his lights then, and we saw, I think it might have been him earlier on in the race that was preoccupied by flashing his lights and moved over on another car. I can't remember whether it was Marco or Pablo that did it, but you'll see here, I'm not sure he leaves the room there, and then you'll see, ready, lights are flashing there, and such a shame. Such a shame that is.
So hard. It's so hard as well because he's so frustrated. He's got in a bit of a tizzy after what happened between himself and Jacob Money, and then he's flashing his lights. He doesn't keep an eye on the relative. He doesn't see potentially the blue flags up on the screen that shows the fast car go through. You can see Ramez, he's trying to stay out of the way. You can see the car rejoining. He thinks he's safe, but apparently it's not safe enough. And look at that. You can hear the car. He's desperately struggling, desperately on the power, trying to get it out of the gravel, but there's massive damage done to the rear left-hand side of his Dallara LMP2 car, and that is essentially Ramez Azam. After what has been a great race from the SimC Sports driver, up in 2nd place, keeping Maxime Briand honest all the way as well. It was a great little battle that we could have been seeing, but unfortunately just one little incident with the back marker has put pay to his race. But it's the same for everyone, isn't it, Chaz? Each of these drivers out on circuit, each of these drivers in the top 10 have to find their way through backmarker traffic, and sometimes it's a bit of luck that can just go out of your way, but maybe in a few rounds' time that luck can befall someone else.
Yeah, that's it. You always do see the swings and fortunes of these drivers in series like this. And it's such a shame to have it. But I do want to remind everyone as well, if you are involved in an incident and obviously you have your grievances, of course, please don't bring it into the YouTube chat. There are necessary channels for those sorts of things. But either way, that wasn't the best moment we've seen from this fantastic championship. Justin Young, oh, another one through the loop there. That's a real shame. Tim Allman's just had an issue as well. Oh, he's already backwards at this point. What on earth has happened there? Just letting it roll. Waits until it's out of the way. And gets going again. Not sure whether he's just spun that on his own potentially, but there is a big hefty curb on the way into there, isn't there, to be honest, Ed? So it's easy to hit that. And suddenly, before you know it, the car's around.
Yeah, exactly. And with the wheelbase of the car, it's easy to actually clip the rear of the car instead of the front. So that might have been what happened. He just taps the rear end of it and pitches it round, going backwards, and then gets himself on the way. But again, that's allowed. All of this is allowed. A slight silver lining for Silverstone. They're still going to have a driver on the podium potentially, and that's going to be Burkhard Maring, who's started the race in 5th position, made up 2 places, and now up into 3rd. Great drive from Burkhard, but look, just up the road is Bart Horston, and with about 10 minutes to go in this race, we could be finding yet more battling going on at the top of the field. 1 second is around about the margin between 2nd and 3rd, so with 10 minutes to go, you could find some battles hotting up. Meanwhile, though, this is Christopher Stahl, pro driver, trying to get ahead of AM driver. This is Christopher Stahl on Jacob Money in the Positively Racing car just up the road. No championship points will be gained or lost for either of these drivers if these positions were swapped around, but of course Christopher Stahl, he wants to try and get himself up the order as much as he can do, but having the best chance of getting up to the likes of Fernando Texeira in the Fueltech Esports team, up the road in 10th place, or 11th place, sorry.
Yeah, he certainly needs to close that gap up, but in all fairness, you know, Jacob Money's done a great job so far, and he's showing that while these guys, I mean, I'd say these guys have nailed the classification so far. We've only got a couple of the pro drivers that are within the AM driver's pace, and it's been a very strong showing by a lot of these AM drivers so far, in all honesty. But James Ebram flying at the moment, and to be honest, it doesn't look like anyone's been able to touch him really. He's been He's been sort of reeled in at points, hasn't he? But just no one's got close enough to challenge him overall.
Yeah, he's just been consistent, I think, is the main focus for James Ebram. He got a good qualifying position that allowed him to build a little bit of a gap to, well, as championship competitors further back, and like keep himself out of trouble by keeping his car where he needs to, keeping it in the state that he needed to do, really has helped him out coming into this last bit of the race and giving him that 14-second margin. Of course, we saw earlier he was in a few fights with other drivers that got close to him, but they never were able to be consistently quick, I think, was the main issue for them, is that they never were able to have the pace that James Ebram has had all race long. And to do it over 2 hours, you're in the car, you're not having any driver changes or whatsoever, you're having to just constantly throttle the neck of this LMP2 car, as we're seeing Alvaro Menendez now going down the inside of Pablo Prado into Stowe. Does he get it to pull off? Just about, but will there be an overlap going into Vale? There is. Oh, there's a bit of a nudge from Pablo Prado going into the Vale chicane. He gets it stuck down, but Alvaro Menendez, oh, that was a bit close, I think, to spin out, or a bit of contact that saw the pair of them out of the race. So as we come into the final, 7 and a bit minutes, this is really hotting up everywhere on the field, but also as well has been caught up the gap now under a second for second place. Everything is kicking off now, and look at this. This is Burkhard Maring, although Bart Horston has got a slight lifeline there of the number 8 car. That's a back mark that's giving him a little bit of a slipstream, thankfully, I think, for Bart Horston, but maybe not so much for Burkhard Maring. That is Drew Lloyd, who is about to be lapped there in the Rennie racing car. Meanwhile, here we go, Alvaro Melendez. Oh, does he send it? No, he doesn't. He thinks better of it. He just puts off Pablo Prado into the braking zone, and then as they try and get a good cut through left field, but doesn't get on the power early enough. No, he doesn't.
Bit sideways
Just
as
a
well.
bit of a twitch on.
Yeah, that was lively, you could say, out of there. He's going to look down the inside towards Copse. That's not going to help either of them if he goes for that move. Has to back out of it. Pablo Prado commits and gets through there. It looks like he's actually got a really, really good run out of there. But again, just the dirty air through Maggots and Beckett's. It's not going to help anybody. He just needs to make sure he lines up the run out of there. Now he's tucked it in nicely there. Look at that. Surely he's going to make the move this time round. We'll go back up to the Blimpy boy and get it all with nicely lined up shot as well down the straight. Alvaro Melendez back down the inside. Later on the brakes, turns it into Stowe. Good commitment there as well, and I'm pretty sure he's going to make that stick unless we see a good run now from Pablo Prado and a dive up the inside. No such move going on this time round. But, as you said, Bart Horston now being caught by Burkhard Maring. The gap is 3/4 of a second. And it's gradually coming down. Last time round, Burkhard Maring 1:46.6, Bart Horston 1:47.1. So half a second difference last time. Whether the traffic was to blame for all of that, I'm not sure. A little bit of a blink in and out there from Bart Horston. To be fair, he is Australian, and with the ping that we often get in servers all over the world, there are always the odd driver here and there. Oh, Kevin Abey was in the way. And he's been hit. Now, where has Bart Horston ended up there? He won't be happy with that one. Kevin ended up trying to get out of the way, though. He went over to the left. I'm not sure whether Bart was just trying to... Look, you can see Kevin looks like he's going right. Suddenly ducks left. It's just a breakdown in communication there by the look of it, mate. It's a tough one to call, isn't it? Very, very difficult one to get right there, unfortunately. Kevin Abey.
Oh, yeah, it's so hard, and especially when you're in, at least from my experience when I've driven slower class cars and I've had LMPs come up behind me, is the key is to always just keep your line predictable and sensible. Is just stay on one line and let the other cars come around you. So it's very tricky, though. It's a lot harder, I think, if you're in the same class and you've got faster cars coming around you, because there isn't that speed differential, say, between LLMP and a GTE or something like that. So in this series, it's all about, I think, just a good communication of the car's body language, I think, of what you're doing as a back marker and what you're doing as the car ahead, where you're placing your car, where are you able to keep your eyes open for. And sometimes you do get these little moments. It's like when you're going down the street and you move to the left, the other person moves to your left, and you try and have a bit of a dance almost, isn't it? And you're trying to get past each other, even more so nowadays with social distancing. You're trying to keep as far away from other people as possible. It becomes a little bit of a comedy routine, and there's certainly, however, nothing funny about what happened with, of course, that incident. But thankfully, of course, Austin wasn't massively hampered by it. He gets a little bit of a moment though going out of Stowe. Burkhard Maring is right up behind him. It's really soaring at the wheel, is it? He's trying to get close, and now there's only a few more laps to go in this race. Only a handful more chances for Burkhard Maring to get up into second place. He's already on the podium. He's going to try and do one better, though, and get up into second.
Yeah, don't forget, of course, Maxime Briant nearly 30 seconds clear of all of this. It's been another wonderful performance by him. We've got less than 3 minutes to go in the race now. But Burkhard Maring was wringing the neck out of that 3 Stowe. It was just drifting through the shot. It was great. The tyres will be getting to a point now, well, they probably got to that point quite a while ago, where they are screaming blue murder at the minute, trying to hang on to whatever they've got left. Luke Schneider, by the way, is attacking Mark Winters, the Holy Cow Racing driver, having a go at Team Winters Racing, TWR. Not Tom Walkinshaw Racing, but still, all good stuff. I'm afraid our good mate Kevin Abey's had another issue. Oh, again.
It's weird. His car looks so loose on the rear compared to everyone else. We saw it just coming out of Farmore Village, I think it was, that right-hander going into the loop. His car was already a little bit loose, so that could be something to do with the setup, perhaps. Meanwhile, though, of course, we're going to try and focus on this fight with only 2 minutes remaining in the race. But Horston and Burkhard Maring, they've been having a little bit of a look at each other each way and every way in this final stint, and now I think We're starting to see Burkhardt is really closing up. He's quick through Stowe as well. This could open an opportunity if he gets a good run into the Vale chicane. But Horston's car looks a little bit looser, perhaps. Again, slight twitch at the rear, but keeps himself ahead, keeps himself a nice enough gap to the front as we see a lock up there from, I think that was Marco Prado. That is the 07 car. Yeah. You're going to have to try and keep out of the way of these battling two because, well, when you have two cars up at the top of the field that are fighting, it's so difficult to keep out of the way, of course, and to let them through nice and safely. He does keep well out of the way from Bart Horston. And, there's a bit of a squeeze on the apex with Burkhardt Maring, but, well, you can't just stop, can you? He's already mentioned you can't just stop in letting other cars through. That's just, unfortunately, how the race sometimes goes for these drivers.
Luca Fioravanti's back in the pits. I'm wondering whether he's not got enough fuel in that car. And there is one of the Holy Cow cars in there as well. I think he might have missed his box. But, yes, this is a very enticing battle here with Bart Horston. And I think that we're going to have...
It's going to be close if this is the final lap or not. Because where's Maxime Briand on track? That's the key question. He's going to be going up through Stowe now. So we will have, I believe... it could be touch and go. I think we might have one more lap.
I think this is going to be the last one. We've got 10 seconds, although does it take 10 seconds to get around there? We'll have to see what the timer thinks, but Maxime Briand comes round the final corner one more time, and he is going to get one more lap in the books. So we hit the 2-hour mark. He makes it one more, and that is not what Bart Horston wanted, is it, Ed? He wants to make Burkhardt Mari just go away, and he wants this race to finish.
Yeah, exactly. He had all the ample opportunity as well, did Maxime Briand, just to slow down. If he wanted the race to end there, he could have done so. But, well, Maxime Briand, ever the racer, wants to try and just keep hurtling around this Silverstone circuit. And he's certainly going to have the opportunity to do so one more time, as will, of course, Bart Horston and Burkhardt Maring right behind. Less than a second between the pair of them still as we start the final lap of the race. Burkhardt Maring, as you can see in the rear of the shot, really trying to catch up. He's closing in on these slow speed corners, but then through the high speeds, of course, with all of the dirty air, you see Burkhardt lose a little bit. Look at that though, he gets the apex hooked up, gets on the throttle a little bit too early, has a opposite lock moment in collecting the rear of the car to keep it straight and get down the Wellington straight. Going into Brooklands and Luffield now, the gap half a second, so Burkhardt is closing corner after corner. He sends it. You can hear the tyres screaming out in agony as they've gone down for, 2 hours of punishment, and they'll have just a few moments more now as, again, half a second. He's closing down, Chaz, but will he get the move come the end of the race?
It's all going to be down to the hanger straight for these guys. It's going to be so close, but just while we look away from it, Maxime Briand is about to come round into the final corners once again. He won the first round of the championship at Daytona. He qualified on pole position here at Silverstone. And for 2 out of 2, it's Maxime Briand, the Frenchman from Movano Sim Racing. What a fantastic drive again. Very well done, that man. Now this is the battle for second place. Bart Horston trying to hold on ahead of Burkhardt Maring. Burkhardt's not been able to get the slipstream down here, and I doubt we're going to see that much of an improvement into the final corners. He's using all of the road and some more, but it does not look like it's going to be enough. Bart Horston, the Australian, is going to hold on to second position. It's been a great charge from Burkhardt Maring, but well done to Bart Horston. Second place, Burkhardt third. Great drive from them. SimCity Esports on the podium again. Alexander Walton is going to come home in fourth position, 12 seconds further back. Molnar Peter is going to cross the line in fifth, just behind him as well. Now, do we have any... Luca Fioravanti has had an off on the final lap. He's at... No, it was after the line. Sorry. It was after the line, but wow, he won't be too pleased with that one there. But where is James Ebram? James Ebram... he's crossed the line pretty much after the leader, so James Ebram has won the AM class. Sorry, James. Jacob Money finished in second. Marco Prado got third place. But wow, what a race we had there, Ed. So much going on all the time. And great stuff from Bart Horston to get second. That was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But Horst was having a look at the performance his last time out, and he got 12th position last time out at Daytona. So it's been an absolute massive improvement from the Australian to get himself not only a podium, but a second place. Great driving there from the Meridian Motorsports man, who's had a great performance. It has to be said, but of course, you can't speak about great performances without mentioning Maxime Brienne, who is going to extend his championship lead by, well, a fair few more points, as Ramez Azam, his closest rival in the championship, had an unfortunate time of things, didn't he? He was doing so well, and then just come the end, it didn't quite work out for the Canadian driver there, as we're seeing all the cars make their way over the line for what has been a brilliant second round of this Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. The Meridian Audio Silverstone LMP2 Classic, and what a race it has certainly been, Chaz. It's kept me and you on the edge of our seats, and we hope everyone in the chat as well has enjoyed the race that's been on show this evening, because, well, I'm certain we'll be seeing plenty more of that for the rounds to come. So, yeah, the Iridium boys having a bit of bumping and barging down the Hamilton Straight.
Indeed, wonderful stuff to see. Great drive from pretty much everybody in the field there. Maxime Brienne, though, takes the win by almost 30 seconds. Another outstanding drive. Bart Horston second for Iridium Motorsports, with Burkhard Maring and Alexander Walton third and fourth for Simsa Esports. Brilliant drive by those guys as well. Impulse Racing 5th and 6th, Molnar Peter and Timothy Hayden, with Roberto Edouard in 7th. Didn't see too much of him actually in this race, but again, sometimes no news is good news. Then we've got Jose Buizan in 8th, ahead of Ayebola Lawal in 9th, and in the top 10 overall as well, your AM class winner, James Ebram. Fantastic stuff from the exothermic racing driver. Fernando Teixeira finishes 11th, ahead of Jacob Money, 2nd in AM, with Luca Fioravanti eventually 13th. Drew Lloyd 14th. Don't forget, he pitted really early on as well, actually, Drew Lloyd, so good recovery from him. Marco Prado finishes 15th, 3rd in class with Justin Young 16th. Christopher Stahl 17th, ahead of 007 Roy Maas in 18th place. He was followed by Eloy Cabanero, with Alvaro Melendez rounding out your top 20. Behind him was Hans Blankart, Pablo Prado in 22nd, Daniel Andres in 23rd, Kamal Hashimi 2 laps down in 24th, same with Michael Fluch, Mark Winters, Luke Schneider and Tim Allman. And then we had Andy Spicer, Kevin Abey, who was very entertaining towards the end there, E.J. Fielner finishing 31st, Jancho Oval 8 laps down, Ramez Azam 9 laps down. One of the main stories of this race, that contact ending his race from a fantastic charge to second. Lee Tucker was 9 laps down as well. And then the drivers we lost earlier on: Arthur Figueredo, Peter Zuber, Merjim Aliou, Stephen Hatter 38th, Ivo Lobscher, Rodrigo Lizowski, Stephen Arell and Robert van den Hooven. But the driver of the day, surely, you've got to say, is Maxime Brienne. It was a hell of a performance, and he's actually joining us now in the box. Maxime, another pretty standard day at the office for you. It looked like a really fun race, but with not too much competition from behind. How did you find that one?
Thank you very much. Well, James did a very good job behind me. I didn't expect him to be that close to me, to be honest. Too bad what happened, but yeah, it was more close until James crashed, but yeah, fun race.
It certainly looked like a lot of fun out there. The car seemed really hooked up well as well, and you know, you were consistent over the stint. Was there any certain part of the race that you started to struggle with, or did you have it all in hand?
In the first stint, I pushed hard because, well, I wanted to create a gap with the guys behind. And in my second stint, yeah, I struggled a bit and did some mistakes, but yeah, after that it was all good, and the car was very good. And yeah, for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult to make the tyres last like that. Were they really going off at the end, or did you have a little bit more life in them than you expected?
At the end of my second stint, now they were completely dead. But yeah, I saved them a bit more in the second part of this race, and yeah, that was good.
And what did you make of Silverstone in comparison to Daytona? We know that they do have a lot of different aspects. One of the main things that we saw with the drivers that were battling further down was dirty air. Now, Daytona, obviously, a lot of the corners are a lot slower. Around the banking, it's all about the slipstreaming. But when you've got a lot of fast corners like you have at Silverstone, the dirty air really affects these cars. Did you feel that that was an issue when you had lap traffic that you got quite close to?
Yeah, indeed. Silverstone is very bad with the dirty air, and that's why starting from pole was a very good thing. And yeah, compared to Daytona, Daytona is all about low downforce and being careful with the throttles, so dirty air is quite fine. But at Silverstone, yeah, in the second part of this track, it's very hard to follow someone. But personally, for me, I didn't really struggle behind behind those lapped cars, so yeah, it was okay, let's say.
Well, it certainly looked like a lot of fun, mate. Again, another wonderful performance from you to, well, extend your championship lead, of course. And plenty more fun to come, though, in the rest of the series. Are you looking forward to the rest of it and hoping to take more wins there as well?
Yeah, I hope. Well, I'm aiming for the win here, but for this championship, so yeah, I will focus on that.
Well, it's certainly been a joy to watch you again this evening, Maxime. Well done, mate. And before we let you go, you know the question by now. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, thank you for the coverage first, and thanks to Craig Setup Shop for amazing setups, and Thomas Ocarla for being my crew chief. He helped me a lot here.
Awesome stuff. Well, great to speak to you, Maxime. Again, well done from everybody here, and we'll see you next time round, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
And just as Maxime leaves us, we have another driver that ended up on the podium in that one. Burkhard Maring joins us in here. Burkhard, you must be really pleased with that. I mean, it's a shame what happened to Ramez, but at the end of the day, it gained you a podium, and you had a really good chase there at the end with Bart Horston, didn't you?
Of course. Thank you. Yeah, the race started a bit hassling for me because I got some technical issues. So hopefully I didn't head up anyone at the beginning. And yeah, at first I really struggled in traffic because of course high downforce, a lot of high downforce corners. So if you're stuck behind someone, the draft is quite difficult to manage. But in the end, somehow I was able to get some free laps, and unfortunately I pushed a little bit too much. So in the end, my tires were gone completely. Had some big moments there, but yeah, I was still able to catch number 50, so it was quite a good race for me. Somehow lapping cars were quite difficult to manage today, but it went all quite well for me.
Yeah, we were just talking then to Maxime about the dirty air around this circuit. It's a completely different beast to Daytona, where you were for the first round of the championship. And I mean, even when you're not even battling the car in front sometimes, when you're just trying to get past lap traffic, it becomes a real issue by the look of it. And I mean, we just watching the broadcast, you know, we could feel the understeer here and there. But either way, I mean, a podium, you Simsa boys seem to be doing a strong job this season. Do you think that you'll get another podium before the season's finished?
Hopefully. I switched a bit of my setup. Got a direct drive wheel this year, as well as some Heusingwelt sprint pedals.
Nice. For
this race, so this really helped me catching up with these guys up front, and this really also helped me with being consistent lap over lap. Yeah. So if I'm getting more used to the pedals and all the stuff I collected, I think I will be competitive with Ramis. Maxime, however, is another league for himself. So good win, good race, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the next race.
Yeah, Road Atlanta, the next round of the championship, and again, when you're going down the downhill section and through the final corner, maybe even turn one, you know, dirty air could be an issue there, but there's that long back straight for slipstreaming, so it's going to be an interesting one to see. But thank you very much for speaking to us, Burkhard. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Of course, my teammate Alexander. On the last second, he posted a setup which we used in the end, and it was a bit better for what we have used before. And I think this also really helped with the success we had today. Unfortunately, Alex had a spin by himself, so I think it would be a nice battle in the end. But also a shout out to Peter Clavita, our team owner, who really supports us every race beforehand. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Burkhard. Great to speak to you, mate. Well done, and we'll see you at Road Atlanta.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Awesome stuff there. Burkhard Maring finishing 3rd place overall in that race, and the driver that finished 12th overall, despite starting 28th on the grid. A fantastic climb up the order. 2nd in class. You could call it a positively wonderful result. Jacob Money joins us in the chat. Jacob, you've been the source of many puns so far this season, not just for the team name, but your surname as well. But in all honesty, jokes aside, that was not a laughing matter, that race, was it? That looked tough.
No, yeah, that was quite a physical race, that one. It was definitely good fun. I had a good battle with Marco in the majority of the race. Just couldn't catch up to James at all. He had a fantastic drive. He did nothing wrong in my eyes. I had a good clean race as well. I think looking back, I had one of the lowest incident points throughout the entire field. Just a good consistent pace. Tried my best to catch James, but he was just too good.
Yeah, it seemed like once he got to the front of the pack and still had a little bit of clearance, he just couldn't be caught. I mean, there was a bit of an overlap in the pit stops, of course, where Marco was right with him, but unfortunately he just couldn't maintain the fight from there, and obviously had to pit, and then it knocked it all back to a level playing field again. But we've mentioned the main subject really this evening and throughout the interviews as well has been dirty air. Like when you're trying to chase the cars in front, I mean, you said how physical it was then as well. Having to adjust and brake early and turn in at different times, it must have really, especially in these cars, it must have really messed with your rhythm.
Yeah, quite a few of the corners were quite difficult if you were following another car. Luckily for me, majority of the time I was either ahead of a car or I was in clean air, so it wasn't too bad, but I think it was about lap 54, 55 when I started to catch the guy ahead. Coming into Stowe, I found myself drifting out wide quite a few times because it was just quite difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the dirty area, it wasn't too bad, but as I said, I was in clean air for the majority of the race.
Yeah, it certainly looked like a bit of a challenge at points, but like I say, sometimes you take the rough with the smooth. And obviously very well done from us on the wonderful 2nd place in class. Do you want to give a quick shout out to anybody while you're on stream?
Just the team really, and my manager, he might be watching.
Smashing stuff. Well, good to speak to you, Jacob. Well done, mate, and we'll see you in a few weeks at Road Atlanta.
Cheers, thank you. Can't
Cheers.
wait.
See you soon. Brilliant stuff. Right then, couple more to go through here then. Bart Horston joins us in the chat. Bart, I know that we'll all obviously look at the circumstances of what happened to Ramez Azam as a real unfortunate one, but you had a belter of a race out there. You must have enjoyed that one.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I mean, maybe it helped, but I didn't have many expectations going into that race because I've been really busy preparing for Porsche esports at the moment, so I was doing that this afternoon, so I was just been really busy focusing on that. Thankfully I know this car really well around here and I've done a few races, so it seemed to, I jumped into the practice session and it took me a few laps to for things to click again, and the pace, I was just surprised. The speed was about top 5 or that in practice, and then 4th in qualifying. I think that was it really. Just I was quick enough to put myself in a good position, then got a good start obviously, and then I was surprised. I think I found more speed as the race went on, to be completely honest, and things kind of got easier. I was expecting to fight a bit of a backwards battle and maybe fall back in the pack a bit, but clearly there was some pretty good speed in the car, and I can't thank the Iridium guys enough, all the drivers and engineers who've been working really hard over the past few days to get everything ready for today. And I think their work showed, because I think with the amount of practice I did, I'm really happy to be on the podium. And I know Ramez obviously had an incident, and that's tough, but still it would have been a podium probably anyway, so I'm just happy.
Yeah, well, it was a mega drive, and that's the thing. You've got to be in it to win it a lot of the time. We do see a number of drivers where they'll have a wonderful race, as I'm sure you know, obviously, from the real world side of things as well. You've got so many performances that will just go unnoticed for so long, and then something bad will happen. And I mean, I always say the phrase, you take the rough with the smooth, but that's just racing, isn't it, unfortunately? Because sometimes the luck comes to you, sometimes you get caught up in something that isn't your fault. It's a real sort of swinging pendulum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of racing. I think everyone understands that to an extent, because all you can do is put yourself in the right position as often as possible to win a race, and then maybe it doesn't go your way, maybe it does. We have a lot of control when we're driving the car of what we can and can't do, even when other people make mistakes, but some things are relatively unavoidable and it can be pretty rough, especially on iRacing. So, it's just, I think, like you say, it's part of the racing, but you got to give yourself the best chance possible every time you go out there.
Yeah, indeed. As long as you're in it to win it, mate. But again, well done, Bart. That was a mega performance today. Plenty of points on the board. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Once again, I'd just like to thank JJ and Raquel, my engineer, for that race, because it was pretty tough on her recalculating fuel all the time. It was super tight on fuel because it was, not a proper fuel save race, but not flat out either. So it was kind of on the edge, and managing that all race long was tricky at the pace we were going. So, and like I said, without the necessary practice, it was kind of learning as we were going through the race. So yeah, just everyone on Meridian, because that was a really tough one.
Certainly looked like it, but you made it work, mate. Well done, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Cheers. Great stuff. That is the Bart Horston as well, by the way, from British Formula 3. I believe he used to race in Formula 4 as well. But how could we end the broadcast without speaking to the man who I still am not 100% sure I'm saying his surname right. James Ibram joins us in the chat.
Close enough, I'll take it. Ibram, but yeah,
Ibram,
I'll do.
I thought that the thing is,
I thought we said Ibram and Ibram, and we were both wrong to it.
It's the thing is, you overlook the most simple ones sometimes. And that's why everyone overlooks me. To be honest, though, James, mega performance today. You got out in front, you qualified well, you just drove away in what I'm going to say is the prettiest car on the grid, and made it all work. I mean, how did you find that overall? Because I imagine it wasn't just as easy as driving away, was it?
No, the first few laps with all the pro cars around was hard to. I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt their races, because obviously, if I'm in the middle of two cars, the guy behind, if he did a poor quali, but I might have better race pace, I don't want to hold him up and prevent him from battling any of the people he was involved with. But it was all just really about keeping it as clean as possible in the first few laps and getting into a rhythm.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it was a bit of a stressful one, because, like you say, I mean, a lot of drivers we saw out there in the AM class were just thinking, oh, he's a pro driver. That don't mean nothing to me. Stuff it. As I've heard another racing driver, a real life racing driver, say, I'm not going to quote the person, but I'm not going to say the name, but he said about another driver that was complaining about him getting involved in his race. He said they're just stickers on windows to me. It doesn't really matter. And we saw a bit of that up and down, but to have that consciousness of, right, this guy's a pro driver, I'm not getting in their fight. I was saying early on, it can sometimes help you in the fact that it stays clean and you're out of the fight, but sometimes it can hinder you if you let one past and an AM driver could come through. There were a few points where they started to close in on you, weren't there?
Yeah, there was one pro driver who must have had a slight spin earlier on and ended up behind me, was sort of closing me in, and I was going to let him down the straight after the stadium section, turn 4, but he decided he wanted to have a bit of a lunge going to turn 3.
As they do.
And that actually combined cost us about 2 seconds from what I figured out, which wasn't particularly helpful. But in general, most of the I actually didn't really get passed by many pro drivers. I think it was maybe the only one. But I think there may have been one other, and I just moved aside on the straight, and it didn't cost us anything at all. So I would say most of the cars I came across were quite willing to give way or just be patient. There was definitely a couple which were more resistant to letting you by, but I didn't have much trouble with traffic through that race.
That's always an absolute blessing around somewhere like Silverstone. We've been talking about the dirty air a lot this evening as well, which has been a very visually represented aspect of this race, but even still, What a fantastic race it's been. Of course, this helps you out in the championship as well, with a win in the AM class, which is what it's all about. We go to Road Atlanta next time round in 2 weeks. What do you make of going around there?
I've never driven it before.
Oof.
This will be a trial by fire a little bit. I'll make sure I get a lot of practice in.
You'll enjoy the downhill section, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that I'm not too out of my depth there.
Well, me too, because today's performance was an absolute corker, James, and you deserve that. And to be honest, we hope that it continues. It's always good to see, drivers with the right mindset going forward in championships like this. And obviously, it always makes for an enticing championship fight. But it is unfortunately all we've got time for, mate. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
You know what? I'll give a shout out to my parents because I know they're watching downstairs while I'm trapped at home. So I really appreciate their support.
Cracking stuff. Well, great to speak to you, James. Again, well done on a fantastic win, and we'll see you in a few weeks at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Well, Ed, where do we start? What a race. I mean, it had everything. Maxime Brienne, again, a flawless performance. He had his moments where he started getting caught up by Ramez Azam, but such a shame with that incident we saw. But again, it's just part of what we get in this championship, don't we? It's all so close, and there's just stuff going on everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, it was unfortunate what happened to Ramez Azam, but I don't think that would have changed the top position of Maxime Brienne. As soon as he started the final stint, it looked to be his race completely wrapped up. Of course, you can have a look and say, oh, ifs and buts, but that's just sometimes racing, isn't it? These little things happen, and that's part of the joy and the sadness that happens. Some drivers gain, other drivers lose out, but we'll be trying to find out, I think, who's going to be gaining when we go in a couple of weeks' time. Or is it, I think, just a couple of weeks' time. We're going to, as you mentioned, Road Atlanta, and that is going to be a tricky circuit. That first sector where you have to go up the hill and then you careen back down through the S's. Like we mentioned, Silverstone is difficult to pass, but you do have that long back straight in the chicane where we're going to see plenty of moves being made, I'm sure, Chaz, and I can't wait, honestly. I'm really looking forward to being in the booth for that one.
Indeed, it's certainly going to be a belting round of the championship, the site and the location for the Petit Le Mans as well, so some of these drivers may have experience around that circuit, and we really do hope that you join us for that one, everybody, in 2 weeks' time. This has been a wonderful, wonderful evening of racing here in the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, the Meridian Audio Silverstone LMP2 Classic. I've been Chaz Draycott. He has been Ed May. This has been Sim Racers World TV. Have yourselves a fantastic evening, and we'll see you very soon. Good night.